As soon as Levi caught sight of the faint glimmer, he no longer cared about the filth beneath his boots. He rushed forward, torch raised high. There, scattered across the dusty ground, was a pile of coins. Silver, both old and new. Among them were trinkets, tarnished candlesticks, ornate goblets, knives and forks, and even plates, some silver, some gold. Levi's lips curled into a grin. Jackpot! He knelt and began scooping everything of value into his backpack. But there was simply too much, too many odd shapes and awkward sizes. The bag filled up fast. After a moment's pause, Levi came to a decision. He pulled out his tools and constructed a small reverse smelting furnace on the spot. Before long, all the miscellaneous cutlery and decor were melted down. The result: 5 solid gold bars, 11 silver ones, and a hefty pouch of silver coins. His backpack, now neatly organized, had room to spare. What had once been bulky junk was now compact wealth. A new prompt flashed before his eyes. Levi opened his synthesis table. Fresh crafting recipes had been unlocked: silverware, chandeliers, and other luxury items. He'd be able to craft them directly in the future. Satisfied, Levi stepped out of the cave and opened his map. He turned toward the darker depths of the troll forest. Ogres, he muttered, real treasure troves in ugly skins. His eyes gleamed with anticipation. The next day, the silence of the mountains shattered with a wailing cry. An ogre, rudely awakened from its slumber, opened its eyes just in time to see a small human sticking a sword into its side. Roaring in fury, it stood and charged, but didn't get far. Daylight poured through gaps in the canopy. Even the sliver of sunlight brushing its skin made the ogre wince in agony. "Filthy insect!" the ogre roared, grabbing a boulder and hurling it. It hit a tree with an explosive crack, splintering bark and nearly snapping the trunk in two. Levi, ducking for cover, broke into a cold sweat. Okay, note to self, these things have artillery. A direct hit would have taken out a chunk of his health. Without wasting a second, he fell back to his usual tactic: block the cave entrance, draw the bow, and kite the beast until it collapsed. And collapse it did, roaring its final breath. Levi stepped over the ogre's corpse without flinching, retrieving his arrows and lighting his torch. Into the cave he went. Experience had turned him efficient. He knew where ogres stashed their loot. What couldn't be carried was thrown into the smelter and refined. No movement wasted, no time lost. Soon, he was gone, another ogre lair stripped clean. "This forest is a gold mine," Levi muttered, eyes gleaming as he pressed deeper into the woods. 1 week later, nightfall. In the dense underbrush, a trembling ogre had just snapped the neck of a sheep. "Quick, quick!" it muttered, clutching the carcass as it ran. Its massive head was drenched in sweat, its breath ragged. "Please, don't show up tonight. I just want to eat in peace. Not that ghost, not the money-eating ghost." It didn't stop running until its cave came into view. Inside, it built a fire and began roasting the sheep whole. The smell of sizzling meat filled the cave, lifting the ogre's spirits. As it chewed, it leaned back and let out a satisfied groan. "Huh, that ghost. If it comes, I'll just smash it." "Really?" The ogre froze. A voice. Its head turned, and standing beside the fire was a man, smiling coldly. "A snack? How kind of you to prepare dinner." Moments later, the ogre fell, blood pouring from its wounds. It clutched its neck before crashing to the ground. Levi took a bite of dry jerky, watching his health regenerate. He had slain more than a dozen ogres this week. His arrows were mostly broken by now, shattered from striking thick hides. He'd shifted to sword and shield, engaging in up-close combat. The first few encounters had terrified him. The ogre's strength could crush stone. One solid hit would send cracks spidering through the earth. But repeated battles taught him their rhythm. He studied their movements, learned to read their wind-ups. Whether it was a slap, sweep, punch, or boulder throw, he anticipated each one. By now, his instincts acted before he thought. He wasn't a PvP master yet, but in PV, he was becoming a god. Levi exited the latest ogre den, his face twisted in disappointment. "Another broke one," he muttered, Nothing but bones and waste. Not every ogre had a treasure trove, it seemed. In fact, most were dirt poor. The good hauls? Just luck. Like blind boxes. Even worse, the forest was starting to feel empty. Ogres were harder to find. He'd only come across one today, and by chance, while he was out hunting, if it had stayed inside, Levi might have missed it entirely. He remembered what the creature had muttered in terror earlier. Money-eating ghost. A slow realization crept over him. Wait, is it talking about me? It clicked. He was the money-eating ghost. He had become a legend among ogres, a tale they whispered in fear. This might be a problem, Levi admitted, scratching his head as he stepped outside. He circled the fire pit, eyes scanning what remained. And then he stopped. There above the smoldering coals was the roasting spit, a metal rod crusted with grease and grime. Except it was glowing. Levi blinked. He leaned in, cautious but curious. No, it wasn't just reflecting firelight. It was actually glowing from within. He picked it up slowly, brushing the grime away. What had once been a filthy skewer might just be a treasure in disguise. I scrub. Damn it, scrub. Inside the cave, Levi huffed as he poured a bucket of water into a shallow puddle. He grabbed the crusty, starch-coated stick with both hands and began beating it against the rock with force. Water splashed, grime flaked, and after minutes of determined scrubbing, the filth finally gave way. And there it was, beneath the grime, a gleaming silver-blue blade. The moment the last of the gunk came off, a soft ding echoed in Levi's mind. The label floating above the weapon shifted. Ancient elf sword. Attack +9. Oh, hell yes. That was 2 points more than a diamond sword. Basically a diamond sword with sharpness 3. Levi couldn't stop grinning. Diamond sword? Never heard of it. I only recognize my one and only elven beauty. The sword glowed faintly in his hands, ethereal and elegant, a relic of some bygone age. The word ancient wasn't just flair. This blade had likely seen more centuries than a human civilization. Probably older than elven kitchenware. Middle-earth's forging arts really were something else. He looked into the now murky puddle, then at his empty water bucket. Nope, that's done. He carefully slotted the glowing blade into his backpack, feeling more satisfied than after a haul of gold or gems. Then he paused. Was it always glowing? His grin vanished. Every instinct screamed, danger. Levi bolted from the cave, crouched low, and slipped into the bushes, blending into the shadows. Not long after, he heard footsteps. An orc scout trotted by and saluted an orc atop a warg. Chief, I saw light from the ogre cave. The warg snarled. That's ogre territory. Leave it, the orc chief grunted. Yes, chief. But the warg sniffed the air again, uneasy. What is it, girl? Its red eyes gleamed, nose twitching. It turned toward Levi's bush. Seriously? Levi swore inwardly. Wargs had better noses than dogs, and worse, they could climb. Peering past the foliage, Levi spotted a patrol of around 20 wolf riders. He gripped the elf sword and did a mental calculation. Not good. With diamond armor? Maybe. With iron? That was suicide. Levi was no war-hardened warrior. He won most of his fights through traps, quick reflexes, and lucky trades. Anything beyond 10 enemies? He'd be overwhelmed. Fight or flee. He looked at his gleaming new sword. No way I'm letting you go. But even seasoned MC players knew when to bail. One of the wargs began approaching the bush. Levi slipped silently back. The warg burst through, only to find a fading scent trail. Something was here, it growled. Stay sharp, the orc chief ordered. Far from the patrol, Levi was already digging. He crafted a small tunnel near their path, then circled around to track the group again. The Misty Mountains, he whispered. They're heading back to base. He smirked. They won't make it. Levi slipped through the forest like a shadow, then pounced. With the elf sword raised high, he slashed down with all his might. Thwack! Critical hit. The rear orc and its wolf were cleaved in two. The blade cut through flesh and bone like butter. Enemy attack. Another rider charged. Levi raised his shield and deflected the blow, then sprinted as the rest turned around. He couldn't outrun wolves, but he could outsmart them. As a second rider gained on him, Levi dove into a bush. The warg lunged after him and found an empty clearing. Gone. The riders arrived moments later. Where the hell did he go? They sniffed, circled, but found nothing but freshly turned earth. Not far away, Levi was already climbing out from underground, using a dirt block as a makeshift stool. Russell, a scout, approached, puzzled by a square patch of clean soil. Who farms in a troll forest? Before he could finish that thought, flash. A white glow burst, and the wolf fell dead. The scout dropped next, stabbed clean through the chest. There, over there. But when they turned, Levi had vanished again. Back in the tunnel, he sealed the entrance and retreated to another exit. Damn human! More chaos erupted. A third rider screamed, another ambush. They're everywhere, an orc shouted. No, there's more than one. Another panicked. There has to be. But the truth? It was just Levi. One man, one glowing sword, and a whole lot of tunnels. The orc chief growled, "Cowards, come out and fight." No response. Levi was already crouching near the next ambush point, blade ready. Whish! An arrow tore through the air. Levi gasped. Pain bloomed in his chest. He stumbled back. The orcs had learned. No more free kills. The chief laughed. "Got you, rat. I'll gut you and feast on your heart." Levi calmly yanked the arrow from his chest, stuffed it in his pack, and muttered, "Thanks." Then he ran like hell. The orcs pursued. But halfway through the chase, Levi flipped into another bush. By the time they entered, it was déjà vu. Gone again. The captain's hands trembled. This is sorcery. He hesitated. Retreat. We regroup, and AGH. An arrow pierced his shoulder, knocking him from his mount. And there, right beneath him, was an open square tunnel. Wide-eyed, bloodied, the orc captain stared into the dark and finally understood. There had never been multiple enemies. Only one, and he was...
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
A low-health monster. Can you resist killing it? Levi clearly saw that this arrow directly shot Captain Oak and left him with only 7 drops of blood. The kill line has arrived. Without any hesitation, Levi quickly crawled out of the tunnel, drew out his sword before the oak next to him rushed over, and directly chopped the oak captain to the ground, clearing his health. With the death of their leader, the surrounding orcs became chaotic without their core, and even the wargs were at a loss. Levi did not miss this opportunity. He stepped forward and chopped down several of the orcs, including the wargs. The smell of blood became stronger, and finally Oak reacted, pointing at Levi and shouting, "Kill him! He's alone! Shine!" The sword flashed, and the wolf under the orc's crotch had its limbs broken and fell to the ground. Another sword was stabbed up, and the orc died on the spot. The temporary commander who stood up was killed in an instant, and a team of oaks fell into chaos again. Some oaks continued to rush towards Levi, trying to kill the human first. However, Levi only needed 2 swords to kill him, and did not even need a third one. There was no unified command, and the scene was in chaos. The orcs and the wargs gathered in a large group, shouting and killing Levi in the center, but they were still unable to form an effective formation. They just went over to die like 1 or 2 Gore brothers saving their grandfather. While the ones inside were fighting, the ones outside were just huddled together and yelling, and in the process blocked Oak's retreat. There was also Oak who tried to shout to unify the formation, but he would soon be noticed by Levi. Even if he suffered more injuries, Levi would kill him first. At this moment, Levi deeply felt the difference between having a command and having no command. When the team leader was still alive, Levi only dared to launch sneak attacks and run away after succeeding. He didn't dare to strike even one more time because he would be surrounded if he was a second late. As for now, as long as Levi doesn't want to fight, he can break out at any time. The gap was so huge that it was no wonder that the entire orc camp was quickly defeated after Azeg's death in the Battle of 5 Armies. Soldiers without formations, unable to unify, and only knowing how to fight on their own, are like headless flies in any camp and are not to be feared. His body was stained with more and more blood, but the sword in his hand was still shining, as bright as a star that never goes out. This ray of light became the last light seen by many wolves and orcs. When more than half of the cavalry squad suffered casualties, Levi had already planned to break out and escape. After all, the enemy had so many numbers that even if they all rushed over and attacked him, they would be able to kill him. At this time, he only had half of his health left, and his hunger was not enough. However, what Levi didn't expect was that the orc started to get scared first. Seeing that half of his companions were dead, the human not only acted full of energy without any sign of fatigue, but his injuries were actually recovering. Oak is really scared. He can't be killed at all. Sometimes, the most terrifying thing about something is not that it is difficult, but that no matter what the cost or how hard you try, you can't see any progress at all. Although Levi's condition was somewhat dangerous at the moment, he still appeared to be unharmed, as if all attacks were ineffective against him. The knife was clearly stabbed into his body, but he acted as if nothing had happened. He was even able to pull it out and chop Oak, who had stabbed him, with his backhand. Once or twice is not a big deal, but after 3 or 4 times, many orcs were scared out of their wits. At this moment, Levi pretended to be fierce. He raised his sword and shouted to scare away the orcs and wolves, while he was frantically eating veal jerky. After his hunger and health were restored, he really rushed forward and continued to chop. "I'm waiting for my health to recover. What are you waiting for?" The smell of blood gradually spread. The orcs died as they should and fled as they should, but in any case, this team no longer existed. There were more than 20 horsemen, including wolves and orcs, and there were more than 40 corpses. At this moment, the corpses were spread all over the ground, like a slaughterhouse. The light on the sword gradually went out, signaling the end of the battle. At the same time, system achievement prompts suddenly came. Rivet Valley Area Camp reaches 100. Dunedain Faction Reputation reaches 100. Obtained Faction Achievement. Friends of the Valley. Obtained Faction Achievement. Friends of the Dunedain. What? Levi clicked on the instructions. When your reputation reaches 10 points or above, it means that the corresponding camp has recognized you and their attitude towards you will become relatively friendly. When your reputation reaches 100 points, it means that you are an undisputed friend of this camp. Well, before one even reaches the valley, one has become a friend of the valley. Take another look at the reputation change record. Trolls, orcs, and wargs, all enemies of the free people, whose deaths brought him fame. Not only the Dunedain and Rivendell, but also the reputation of other free peoples will slowly increase once his deeds spread, but certainly not by this much. After chewing another piece of dried meat, seeing that it was still late, Levi decided to continue to visit a few trolls. However, this time, Levi climbed over mountains and crossed rivers, searched for several caves, and ran all night, but he still couldn't find another. Finding ogres is a job that requires both luck and strength. Seeing that there were quite a lot of gold, silver, and treasures in his backpack, and an extra sword, Levi decided to temporarily end his journey in the troll forest and continue to the valley. It's a pity that in the end, the 3 ogres who were hiding a lot of treasures were not found. It can only be said that fate let them escape. We returned to the last bridge, knocked on the ground, and found the horse inside was safe and sound. It must be hard for you to be locked up for so many days. Levi patted the horse's head gently, but the horse didn't react. It just lowered its head and nibbled on the grass, its eyes full of wisdom. "Get on the road." Levi mounted his horse in one step and continued to gallop eastward. This continued until the next night. While riding the horse, Levi took out the map and compared the location. He estimated that at the current speed, he would be able to reach the vicinity of the valley before daytime. According to what Faradin said, there seems to be a path that leads directly into the valley. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, a sound of breaking air suddenly approached. "This!" The horse under him suddenly raised its hooves and stopped abruptly, startling Levi so much that he almost fell off. Looking again, I saw that an arrow had been stuck in the horse's belly at some point. Even though the horse was protected by armor, 7 drops of blood were still knocked out. Turning his head, Levi suddenly found that a large shadow had been lurking beside him at some point. The scarlet eyes were crowded together, staring at him straight, making his scalp tingle. It was a troop of oak cavalry. Judging from his size, there are hundreds of them. I'm super. Levi cursed and turned around and ran away on his horse. What? Isn't this right? The orc archer who shot the arrow was stunned. I thought I clearly hit the target. So how could the horse run so fast as if nothing had happened? Chase, an orc ordered. Suddenly, a group of wolf riders rushed forward and charged forward in an orderly manner. Chief, it's him. He wiped out our team in the troll forest. An orc rider came forward timidly to report, and the wolf under him also looked a little listless, as if it had been frightened recently. I know. That's the head the king wants. I'll kill him. Roar. The wolf under the leader's crotch let out a roar and followed the main force. Bad luck, bad luck, bad luck, bad luck. On this side, Levi was riding his horse, his heart pounding. Damn orcs. So many of them targeting him. Does he have any shame? Is it worth it? After cursing a few words inwardly, Levi had no choice but to run. After all, there were more than 100 wolf riders, and they were not just a ragtag group of soldiers. Looking at their equipment, they were considered elite among the mostly half-naked orcs of the Misty Mountains. At least they were all wearing armor. In any case, this scale is definitely beyond my ability to contend with. Levi ran forward fiercely, not daring to stop for even a second. I kept running like this for nearly half the night. Levi turned around. Damn it, they're still chasing. Won't these wolves get tired? In fact, there are many ways to deal with these pursuers. At worst, you can just keep running and tire them to death. If the situation is almost solved, you can get off your horse and dig 3 blocks on the spot to fill one. Then dig a tunnel to escape. With the digging speed of the shovel, you can dig 3 blocks before the pursuers get close to you. A melodious and loud horn sounded from afar. They rode under the stars. For no reason, Levi remembered a sentence. Rumbling. The sound of galloping horses was heard, and the silver-gray torrent and the silver-white figures passed by each other. At this moment, Levi was like a piece of driftwood entangled in the river, dividing the water into 2 halves. However, after passing around him, the torrent immediately merged into one and dived down without any obstruction. All the soldiers' eyes were focused on the enemy in front of them, and no one diverted their gaze to look at Levi, the stranger. Wow! In the blink of an eye, the silver-gray torrent collided with the orc cavalry. In just a moment, the wolves in the front row were staggered, and the unfortunate orcs who fell were either trampled by the horses' hooves or killed with a single blow, and soon there was no sound. One round of charge directly caused Oak's pursuit formation to collapse. They could no longer reorganize and were forced to stop and fight on the spot. However, the elves quickly changed their formation and hunted the orcs in a more efficient way. Whoosh! An arrow accurately hit the orc who was trying to escape. The rider was riding and shooting at the same time, and every arrow hit its target. Levi was amazed. If it were him who was doing this kind of riding and shooting, let alone hitting the target with every arrow, it would be good if the arrows didn't fly into the sky. Bows, spears, knives, swords, all kinds of weapons were skillfully used in the hands of the elves. The number of orcs continued to decrease, but they were still unable to organize an effective resistance. There were no shouts or excessive noise, only the clash of blades against armor and flesh, and the screams of the orcs before they died. All of this made Levi feel a little unreal. Levi rode his horse and stopped on the hillside, watching this one-sided and silent massacre. The army was defeated. This word is the most appropriate to describe the scene at this moment. Realizing that they could not defeat the enemy with their own lineup, the leader of the Oak team roared and retreated with the remaining men. After symbolically hunting down a few orcs that lagged behind, the elves did not continue the pursuit, but quickly cleaned up the battlefield. After a while, as if they finally noticed Levi, the cavalry team approached directly and surrounded Levi several times inside and outside. What's happening here? Just when Levi was feeling a little nervous, a tall elf rode out on a horse. Greetings to you, outsider. What's your name? Levi, an adventurer from a human town in the west. Adventurer, what brings you to this land? I heard that Yogu is the most beautiful place in Zhongzhou, and I want to come and see it. Oh, the elf looked at Levi with a slightly scrutinizing gaze, and after a moment, he said, "Then please come with us." Speechless all the way, Levi followed the main force and continued to move forward. After the initial greetings, no one spoke to him. The elves around him were quieter than each other, so he could only open his inventory and pack his backpack to pass the time. Although the faction system showed that Yogu's attitude towards him was friendly, Levi was still a little uneasy about the group of taciturn people around him. On the one hand, it can be said that the military discipline is strict, and on the other hand, Levi can't find any reason to talk. I can only remain silent all the way, until they entered a valley. When we first entered the canyon, it seemed a little dark due to the high mountains on both sides, but it didn't take long before the barriers on both sides disappeared. Unconsciously, Levi controlled the horse and took 2 quick steps toward the exit. Under the starlight, Levi's pupils gradually widened, and his vision suddenly became clear. For the first time, he felt that what the human eye can take in is so limited. There's so many scenes, but he can only turn his head to look at them one by one, and there is no way to take them all in at a glance. "Formally welcome you, Adventurer Levi." The elf who had asked Levi questions outside the valley dismounted lightly and looked at Levi. "I heard that a powerful human wizard appeared in the wilderness of Eriador. He built a castle overnight and killed a group of hundreds of orcs by himself. He called himself an adventurer." While talking about the rumors he heard from somewhere, the tall elf took off his helmet and looked at Levi meaningfully. "No, this rumor spread so quickly, even the elves know about it. It's not that exaggerated." Levi denied it repeatedly, raised his head, looked at the elf, and suddenly froze. Such a familiar face, especially the silver hoop on the head. Lord Elrond. Just then, an elf in casual clothes walked quickly down the stairs next to him. "Linder." The tall elf nodded in response and handed the sword in his hand to Linder. "Hiss." This name? Levi suddenly turned his head and looked carefully at the elf beside him. No wonder he looked familiar. It turns out he was the legendary lord of Rivendell, Elrond. The person next to him is Secretary Lyn. After settling the troops behind him, the Lord of the Valley continued to speak to Levi. "Since a few days ago, the signs of oaks in the vicinity have been unusually active. They can be seen everywhere from the last bridge to the Shanshui River. This is very unusual. I think there must be something or someone that attracted them. Don't worry, the orcs will come again in a year. Now it seems that the reason has been found. Well, I think it's because of me. I've killed a lot of oaks recently, and I'm wanted by the Orc King." Elrond stared at Levi with a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You must have killed more evil creatures than just orcs." Levi's eyelids twitched, and he felt that his title library should have been checked. "I can feel that your achievements are not false. There is no need to be modest. This is something worthy of praise. You're welcome in the valley, Levi. Prepare a feast so we can welcome our friends." To be honest, Levi felt a little flattered that the Lord personally invited him to have dinner together, but he was not nervous either. A moment later, Elrond, who had taken off his armor, and Levi sat at the same table. In front of them were dishes served on exquisite plates, and an elf poured Levi a glass of mellow wine. "Thank you." Levi nodded. "Levi, my people first heard about you from the Dúnedain. I heard that you also have good relations with the Dúnedain." "Yes, I have received help from a nomad and have had many interactions with him. I promised him and his people that they can come to me anytime if they need anything. Generosity is always rewarded." Elrond nodded slightly and took a sip. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the sword at Levi's waist. "Can you lend me the sword?" "Of course." Levi did not put the sword into his backpack, but hung it around his waist. In fact, he intended to let this knowledgeable elf lord help him see its origin. The lord took the sword and stroked it carefully. Its forging technique is exquisite. It should have been forged in the First Age to deal with the orc army. It is extremely sharp and should not be an unknown sword. But I have never heard of any legend about it. Perhaps it was lost after it was forged, but before it could be used on the battlefield. I took this from Ogre. There are always some ancient things in their caves, Levi explained. There was no mention that the sword had been used as a skewer by the ogre, for fear that he would choke on it. "I see." Elrond nodded, handed the sword back to Levi, and said, "I think it will help you better deal with the orcs. I look forward to the day when it has a name. Only swords that have made great contributions will be named." When the Lord said this, he meant that he hoped Levi could use it to achieve great results. As expected of a cultured elf, he can praise people without leaving any trace. Levi felt quite comfortable talking with the Lord. Everything seemed so natural. The simple meal was over quickly. Although this elven lord holds a high position, he is a very friendly person. To be honest, Levi was not even sure whether he could meet him before he came. "I never expected to be received in person." Perhaps it was because there had been no human visitors in the valley for a long time, or perhaps the Lord with great power could vaguely sense Levi's title, which made him a little curious. But no matter what, this is just a small episode in his long life, or just an insignificant little note. After a brief chat and indicating that Levi could visit at will, Elrond left. That night, Linder arranged accommodation for Levi. Levi lay comfortably on the luxurious big bed, feeling emotional. It was worthy of being made by the elves. It was more comfortable than any bed he had ever slept on. The night passed quickly. Early that morning, as soon as Levi went out, he felt many eyes cast at him. When he turned around, he found several elves looking at him curiously. It was obvious that word of Levi's arrival and actions had spread. Realizing he was being observed, Levi stared back without flinching. It has to be said that the elves are indeed blessed with various conditions. Thanks to their long lifespan, they have plenty of time to practice various skills, and with a little effort over the long years, they can become hexagonal warriors. Moreover, they are all handsome men and beautiful women, pleasing to the eyes. Also, the elf's health limit is 30 points. Greetings to you, adventurer from afar. Is there any new news from the human town in the west? Finally, an elf couldn't resist his curiosity and came forward to talk. As always, people are going about their daily lives, and there's nothing major to mention. I heard that you defeated a cavalry team by yourself. Is that true? That's it. So if it's true, do you know magic? That's true, but defeating that team required more strategy and luck. There's also hanging. Incredible. The elf expressed sincere admiration. A new star for humanity is rising. He asked, "Will you live here for a while?" "I'd be happy to if I could," Levi replied. "That's great. By the way, if you don't mind, I can show you around where we live. Our land is beautiful and safe. You won't find any evil here. That would be troublesome. The tour guide is here soon. I haven't asked your name yet." "Agra." "Levi." Mountains, water, forests, waterfalls, big palaces, small hotels, farms and ranches, all the beautiful scenery, natural and artificial, seem to be here. As long as you want, you can always find it. Although it was less quiet than at night, the valley was obviously more beautiful during the day. Levi couldn't help but sigh. It's so beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. After seeing the scenery here, I don't even want to go home. The tour guide Agra at the side smiled and nodded, quite proud. Ding! When passing by a house, Levi was attracted by the sudden knocking sound. Following Levi's gaze, Agra introduced. "That's the blacksmith shop. Last night's battle caused some weapons and armor to be slightly worn out. Our craftsmen are repairing and maintaining them." "Oh, elf's equipment." Levi was a little moved and said, "Can I go in and take a look?" "Of course. You are the guest designated by the Lord and have this right." Ding! When Levi slowly walked into the blacksmith shop, he saw an elf hammering a brand new sword. Seeing someone visiting, the elf blacksmith stopped and greeted. "This is Lord Elrond's guest, Levi. He is very interested in our forging." "I see. Greetings to you," the blacksmith said politely. "As you can see, I am forging a new longsword. In order to keep my skills fresh, I often take on some repair and forging work. Can I see this sword?" "Of course." After getting permission, Levi gently picked up the shining sword on the forging table. Elf steel sword attack +7. "What? Are all the swords you use of this quality?" "Yes, what's the problem?" No, it's great. I just want to say that your craftsmanship is quite exquisite and amazing." Although he appeared calm on the surface, Levi was actually already feeling terrified in his heart. Nobody, The normal weapons you use are all diamond sword level. What material is this sword made of? It's so hard. Thank you for your praise. Our craftsmanship does have a long history and contains considerable wisdom. As he spoke, the blacksmith began to explain to Levi the history of the elves' forging technology, from the establishment of the Jewelers' Guild to the many elven craftsmen who later migrated to the valley. There were so many stories to tell, and Levi listened with great interest. It is said that the history of this forge alone is longer than the existence of many human kingdoms. Levi stroked the forging table, which had quite an elven aesthetic, and lamented that the things here were older than each other. Special working block detected. Glen Forge. The alloy forging module has been installed. The synthesis formula of the Valley Camp has been unlocked. Okay. Levi was suddenly stunned, looking at the forging table in front of him, and took a breath. New mod appeared. What happened? Noticing Levi's abnormality, Agra asked hurriedly. It's nothing. I was just surprised by the age of this forging table. It's much older than me. Don't worry about it, Levi. In the elves' territory, everything may have a long history. You humans may not be used to it, but it's commonplace to us. Well, I see. While dealing with the elf's words, Levi's mind had actually drifted far away. He opened the synthesis table and found a series of items with elf labels. Elf steel sword, elf spear, elf series armor. To synthesize these items, you need a material called elf steel. As for how to obtain elf steel, looking at the synthesis table, Levi fell into deep thought. Elven steel requires a newly unlocked block called alloy furnace. You can produce it by throwing in coal and iron and a little experience. Experienced Levi had a hunch that perhaps it played a magical role in forging. Many things forged by the elves contain magic. If you only throw in coal and iron without consuming experience, the output is ordinary steel, which is stronger than iron but not as good as elven steel. Levi has been worried frequently these days. His combat intensity is too high, and the iron armor alone is no longer enough. He really can't get diamonds, so sometimes he wants to go directly to Lonely Mountain to see if he can steal some from the Dragon's Guard. But at this moment, with the loading of the alloy forging module, Levi suddenly felt that the future was bright. If he could create equipment comparable to diamond armor, he would not necessarily have to take the risk of angering the big boss of Lonely Mountain. Levi was very interested in the giant dragon smog, especially the materials on its body. Levi had been eyeing it for a long time and was determined not to miss it. It's just not the right time yet. Levi was not afraid of the dragon. At most, he could dig a hole and hide there for a while. But if it chased him out, the humans at the foot of the mountain would be in trouble. Levi doesn't want to see so many lives destroyed, and he is not sure he can deal with a dragon on his own. Shift your attention back. The elves were introducing their forging techniques, and Levi nodded repeatedly, just as a way of supplementing his knowledge. For the elven craftsman, making a set of high-quality armor and weapons requires first smelting fine steel, and then slowly hammering and forging it through a variety of complex or delicate processes until it is formed. However, Levi only needs to throw the raw materials into the alloy furnace, invest a little experience, and then synthesize them directly on the workbench after they are burned. The operation is simple, brainless, and fast. At this moment, the elf blacksmith standing by had no idea that his core technology had been cracked by someone in just one encounter. Although strictly speaking, Levi does not know the specific forging techniques at all, everything he does is a black box operation. He only knows how to use it, but not the details and principles. But it doesn't matter as long as it works. This trip to Yogu is really worth it. Levi was so happy that he could hardly hold back his smile. He wished he could end his journey right now and go home to have a good time. However, we still have to deal with the current situation. After leaving the blacksmith shop and taking a brief tour of the valley, it was already noon. For some unknown reason, Agra had a liking for Levi, a human, and wanted to make friends with him. So he invited Levi to his house for dinner. Welcome to my place, Levi. This meal was cooked by Agra himself. Many of the ingredients were quite fresh, including quite a bit of meat. Overall, it looked pretty good. Although the elves tend to have a light diet, it does not mean that they do not eat meat. The reason why some dwarves' tables were filled with almost unseasoned vegetarian dishes when they came here was just the elves' small revenge against their unreasonable behavior. The elves' meals always seemed to include a glass of wine. Agra personally filled a glass of wine for Levi and signaled Levi to do as he pleased. "Thank you for your hospitality." The two chatted as they ate and quickly finished the food on their plates. The meal ended with a glass of wine. Seeing his full satiety with some food left over, Levi felt quite satisfied. But speaking of the elves' diet, Levi suddenly said, "I heard that the elves have a magical dry food called lambas. I'm actually very curious about what it looks like and tastes like." Agra was stunned, as if she didn't expect Levi to ask this. "Ramba, I do take some with me when I travel. I have a few here if you want." Having said that, Agra got up and left, and came back a few minutes later with a few square biscuits wrapped in golden leaves. Lambas. Special effect. Life recovery for 10 seconds. Hiss. This was the nth time that Levi had been amazed by the elves' creations. Looking at the biscuit in his hand, Levi felt like he had found a treasure. This piece of Ramba not only provides a life recovery buff, but just this small piece can directly restore the satiety of a row. It's really a travel combat weapon. If Levi had this thing when facing the Wolf Riders squad in the Troll Forest, he would even dare to confront them head-on. Good things are always scarce. There were only 3 pieces of lambas left in the Agra family, and seeing that Levi seemed to like them very much, they gave them all to him. Lambas cannot satisfy one's appetite, Levi. Even if you eat it, you will still crave the taste of bread and meat. However, it has extraordinary effects. I believe it can help you at some point. It does help me a lot. Agra, do you have more here? I would like to buy some if possible. The lambas are good, but it's a pity there are only 3 of them. Agra shook her head. I'm sorry, Levi, but we don't usually sell lambas, and there aren't that many of them. I just happened to save a few pieces. Well, thank you for your generosity. Levi was not disappointed, even though he knew he wouldn't be able to get more Ramba in the short term. Even if he could only get 3 pieces, he was already very satisfied. Since he couldn't make potions for the time being, each piece of lambas could be used as a trump card. The Glen is a magical place. Here people's sense of time becomes dull, and it is difficult to perceive the passage of time. Looking at the waterfall in front of the valley, Levi recalled that he had lived here for a week. Life here is great, like a paradise on earth, but it's too bland. The next morning, Levi dressed and took his horse. Are you leaving, Levi? As if with telepathy, Agra came to the manger. Time waits for no one, Agra. I still have a lot to do and cannot stay here for long. May your steps follow the wind. Thank you. Upon hearing that Levi had left, the elf in charge of raising horses also breathed a sigh of relief. This human's mount was too strange. For 7 consecutive days, it refused to eat or drink no matter what it did. Because of this, he went to Levi to ask about it more than once, fearing that the horse would get sick from hunger, but Levi always told him not to worry about it. If he hadn't seen that the horse was still in good health, he would have thought that Levi had some conflict with the horse and was starving it on purpose. Now it seems that this horse is indeed extraordinary. At least it's very resistant to hunger. Before leaving, Levi said to the elf who came to see him off, Agra, if you have time, please come to the castle between the Windtop and the last bridge. I will entertain you without reservation. During this period, this elf whom Levi met by chance did help Levi a lot, and also gave him good things like lambas. If Levi has the chance, he still wants to repay him. Originally, Levi was planning to give some precious items as a souvenir or something. However, he really didn't bring anything with him this time, and it felt a bit inappropriate to just give gold or silver ingots, so he could only wait until next time. Besides that, another small regret is that I didn't get to meet Aragorn. At this time, Aragorn's presence in Rivendell was still a secret, and not many people knew about it. He did not come forward, and the Lord of Rivendell did not mention it either. Naturally, Levi could not say anything, otherwise he would have no way to explain it. This is all we can do for now. The journey always comes. Levi rode his horse out of the valley and headed west. Damn, a bunch of rubbish. You can't even beat an ordinary human. What you do for a living? A deafening roar echoed in the cave. On the wide rock in the middle of the cave, a fat figure looked down at an orc, giving off a strong sense of pressure. That was the orc town, perhaps even the leader of the entire Misty Mountains orcs, the Orc King. A human being, not only annihilated the troops he sent out to plunder from a distance, but recently he even went further and sneaked to his doorstep, killing another cavalry squad. This is a blatant provocation and is simply intolerable. For some reason, the Orc King was particularly concerned about this human, and news about him always spread very quickly. But we met an elf. The orc explained tremblingly, and he is now living in the elf's territory. Then you won't go to a place where there are no elves? Oak below asked in confusion. However, the leader had already received the news early. The orc scouts from west of the Troll Forest had already discovered that the sturdy castle inhabited by humans was now empty. After the human left, there had been no fireworks in the castle for a long time. An orc secretly lay in the corner and listened, but only heard the calls of some livestock and no signs of human activities. There was also Oak who went to the city gate and shouted and cursed, threw things inside, and waited for a long time, but no one came out. He's in the elves' territory, which means there's no one at home. Go and take his house down. Then go in and ambush him. I want to see his head. The Orc King gave the order. If I can't handle you, can I handle your family? When the time comes, I will wait near your house for you to come back and see how you run. That night, a large group of orc cavalry set out from the Misty Mountains, bypassed the valley, passed through the Troll Forest, and rushed into the wilderness. Wherever he passed, birds flew away in fright, and hares ran away. At this time, Levi was still in the valley. Due to the cover of the forest, the elf scouts guarding the border only found that another team had been sent out from the Misty Mountains. But ever since that team entered the Troll Forest, their specific movements have become a mystery. No one knew what they were going to do or where they were going. Countless groups of orcs entered and exited the Misty Mountains every year. This was just one of them and did not attract much attention from the elves. Besides, they were not coming for the valley, but rather taking a detour. However, although they did not attract the attention of the elves, when they stepped into the wilderness with great fanfare, they immediately attracted the attention of some figures. In the wilderness, a ranger was staring at a shadow in the distance, feeling puzzled. Perhaps something noteworthy is about to happen. After traveling day and night for a few days, the orcs arrived at an area with forests, plains, and lakes. One day, Captain Oak jumped onto a huge rock and looked up into the distance. There was a castle standing at the end of the field of vision, surrounded by a circle of stone walls, and it was impossible to see what was inside. Here we are. Go into the woods, build siege ladders, and attack at night. The squad leader gave the order. The animals within the city walls cried meaninglessly, unaware of the approaching danger. Only the 2 native horses bought from Bree on the stable seemed to sense something. They kept neighing and panting and running around restlessly, but these actions were doomed to be ineffective. There's no one here at all. There is only a group of quiet iron heads, staring at the 2 noisy little guys with their big eyes and expressionless faces. Scratching his head, on the same morning, Levi set out from the valley. Looking at the newly unlocked module, he was excited and rushed home without stopping, just waiting to go home and show his skills. That night, boom, the siege ladder collided with the city wall and rested firmly on it. The orcs cried out and climbed up the walls impatiently. When the first orc climbed up the city wall and found that there was no one in the watchtowers on all sides, he immediately let out a strange laugh, walked to the city gate, and pulled a switch. Crunch! An iron door turned 90 degrees, opening an exit. Suddenly, the orcs came in one after another and squeezed in. The gate was not large, but it was high enough for the wargs and orcs to pass through together. And though it was a little slow for one person to enter, sooner or later all the orcs would be able to enter. The pigs, chickens, cows, and horses on the ranch looked at the invaders intelligently and made meaningless grunts. The orcs and wargs who entered first could not help themselves when they saw a large number of live livestock not far away. They raised their butcher knives and rushed over to slaughter them. Their mouths watered at the thought of the fresh meat that would soon be in their mouths. However, the moment they showed their intention to attack, the outcome was already determined. Boom, boom, boom. The earth trembled, as if some huge monster was approaching. The butcher knife was still raised in the air when suddenly a feeling of weightlessness came over him. The oak vanguard only felt a pain in his waist, and his sight suddenly flew up to the sky. He turned his head and found that the wolf under him had also flown up at some point. Pat! The unfortunate orc rider and his wolf flew out of the wall and fell heavily to the ground. His eyes rolled back and he was motionless. If you feel that no one cares about you, you can go and fight the iron golem, and you'll feel pain all over your body. Levi, the sudden appearance of the iron giant immediately attracted the attention of the large army. Watching their companions fly into the sky, the surrounding orcs were frightened and shrank back for a while. Fight back. There's only one of them. The first to react was Captain Oak. When he saw the enemy appear, he immediately roared. A large group of orc riders immediately showed ferocious faces and swarmed forward, attacking with their butcher knives and fangs. After all, the iron golem was outnumbered and was quickly entangled. Even though the iron golem could lift an orc and its wurg into the air every time it raised its arm, it could only defeat them one at a time. Under repeated sieges, a crack soon appeared on the iron golem, realizing that it was not invincible. Captain Oak immediately felt relieved, estimating that the loss was still within an acceptable range and would not be too great. Once you kill this rearguard, you can occupy this place. However, the next moment, there was another rumbling sound that was louder than the previous one. From the corners of the city wall, the left and right sides of the castle, and some corners that had not been noticed before, tall and big guys rushed over from all directions, swung their long and hard iron arms, and directly knocked a large number of orcs away. Blood fell from midair and splattered all over the ground. In just a blink of an eye, this small team of only a few hundred people was dispersed, with 20 iron golems rampaging among them, and the entire team collapsed to the first blow. One is troublesome enough. Now tell me there are a bunch of these things? The orcs were stunned. The momentum continued to waver and weaken. A one-sided massacre was about to unfold. The two riders were so frightened that they blocked the door and started a fight over who could get out first, cursing and fighting each other. At this moment, the small iron gate at the city gate was obviously no longer a shortcut for the orcs to attack the city, but an obstacle to their escape. Soon one of the orcs was kicked to the ground and lay across the door, while the other quickly rode away on his wolf without looking back. Regardless of his actions, the only escape route was blocked. The orc captain inside the wall looked around at the messy battlefield and finally showed panic. He yelled and tried to gather his subordinates to organize a counterattack, but it was all in vain. At this moment, this group of orcs had been killed and collapsed by the sudden army of iron golems. The place was in chaos and could not be commanded at all. Magic. This must be some kind of powerful magical creation. It is impossible to defeat it with our limited manpower. Captain Oak made the first judgment and knew that the best thing to do at this time was to escape back and deliver the message. So he pushed Oak beside him away, turned around, and ran towards the only exit. Damn it, get out. At this moment, several orcs were crowded at the only exit and could not get out no matter what. Seeing that most of the soldiers behind him were being killed, and it was soon his turn, the team leader became extremely anxious and could not wait any longer. He immediately controlled his wolf to charge forward and pushed away all the subordinates who were crowded together in front of him. What? Screams rang right next to his ears, and when the team leader struggled to run to the door, he finally discovered why his subordinates were blocking him there. What a bunch of rubbish. Move him away. Wow. Another group of orcs were swung into the sky. No longer caring about anything else, the captain simply threw away his wolf, jumped down, and actually squeezed out through the gap in the door. Under the angry gaze of the wolf before its death, the orc captain became the only survivor. He will bring the news here back to the orc king. Also taken back was the fear of this place. The straight-line distance from the valley to Levi's castle is about 50 leagues, or about 240 kilometers. As Levi traveled at full speed day and night without sleep, it didn't take long to cover the distance. He set out from the valley in the morning and arrived near the castle before dark the next day. In fact, theoretically, if Levi travels in a straight line without taking into account other interferences, he can get home within one day. However, on the one hand, the road he was walking on was not a straight line, but had quite a few detours. On the other hand, there were always obstacles of varying sizes on the road, such as trees, stones blocking the road, some potholes, and occasional orcas that popped up from time to time. All these added to Levi's journey. It would be nice to have a horse that can run at full speed. Levi couldn't help but think. In MC, the maximum speed of a horse is 20 meters per second. If you can ride a horse at full speed, not only can you reach the valley in a day, you can even go to the valley to eat in the morning and run back in the afternoon. The horse I'm riding now is still a bit slow after all, but there is no need to rush, as full-speed horses will be available sooner or later. Even without using speed potions to temporarily increase the speed, there's a chance that 2 horses will produce a faster pony. As long as genes are selected from generation to generation, good horses will always appear. Pat, pat, pat. The sound of horse hooves gradually became smaller. Levi stopped at the city gate. Before he entered, he noticed something wrong. What does this smell like? It smells a bit fishy and a bit rancid. Wait, why is the small iron gate next to the city gate open? Was that oak? Levi's heart sank. He dismounted on the spot, walked quickly to the iron gate, kicked open the body of an oak, and walked in. Hiss! Seeing the corpses all over the ground, Levi immediately understood what had happened and went to check the ranch. Fortunately, there was no loss. You guys are really reckless. A rough count showed that there were more than 200 corpses, including those of the Oakgar wolves, piled on the ground inside the city wall. Levi even had no idea where to step for a moment. Not only on the ground, but there are also several hanging on the tops of the watchtowers on the city walls. It is obvious that they were thrown up by the iron golems. Now I know where the reputation comes from. What kind of hatred do you have? You even came to my house to fight me. Levi opened the reputation interface and took a look. Misty Mountain Orc reputation, minus 344 dead enemy. Don't say it. The hatred is actually quite big. Clang. Several iron golems passed by, dragging their cracked bodies. It seems that we have not suffered any losses on our side. Levi picked up a few iron ingots and a small red flower on the ground, shook his head, and planted them on the grass at the city gate. No matter how powerful the iron golem is, it still has a health bar. 20 iron golems facing 100 cavalrymen. This casualty ratio is actually very scary. If these orcs were all fearless warriors and had the right formation and tactical command, they might actually be able to fight the iron golems. But it is obvious that these orcs do not have this quality. Levi can imagine that once a group of iron golems rush over, the orcs' formation will collapse. One's own territory always needs to be taken care of. It took some time to decompose the wolf carcasses into bones for use as fertilizer, and the orc carcasses were moved out for centralized incineration. Levi used a bucket to wash the ground several times to remove all the blood and odor. After doing all this, Levi first took a look at the protozoa that did not have MC characteristics, especially the 2 horses. Good. Levi patted his horse's head. The 2 horses were still healthy. Levi had left enough grass and water before he left, so they had not been hungry during this period. After cleaning up the inside of the city wall and taking out some iron to repair the damaged iron golem, Levi looked at his territory. I always feel it's a bit small. All the space vacated by previous expansions has been turned into farms and ranches. Now I want to find a place to build an industrial zone, but there is no planning. We still have to continue to expand. Just do it. Levi put the items in his backpack into the warehouse on the spot and took out a large pile of building materials. He demolished and rebuilt the city wall, continuously extending it outward. The expansion work lasted for more than a week. The workload was quite large, so Levi directly doubled the length of the city wall and raised it by several meters. The territory area was increased several times, and a large area of open space was created. This action almost completely consumed the cobblestone reserves that Levi had dug in the previous 2 months. The large boxes in the warehouse that were originally full of them were directly emptied, and this was not even enough, so the thickness of the city wall at the back had to be temporarily reduced, and he would have to dig some stones to make up for it when he went out to mine later. To be honest, at this moment, the area here is really large enough to be used as a private territory, and it can be used to build a city. The city wall is more than 20 meters high and thick, and extends hundreds of meters to the left and right. It is not something an ordinary team of 100 people can deal with. I'm afraid that once you see the scale, you will be intimidated. At this moment, nearly half of the relatively flat land on this small plain has been included in the city wall, and the remaining flat land is estimated to be able to support a large-scale expansion. If the area is to be expanded further, Levi will have to manually modify the surrounding terrain. After expanding the territory, Levi immediately marked out a new area for future use as an industrial zone. Furnace, anti-metallurgy, alloy furnace, anvil, workbench. It is called an industrial area, but actually there's not much space for things, and it looks very empty. What's missing? Levi felt that what was missing was a melting pot built with charred bricks. Although the newly unlocked alloy casting module made Levi feel novel, he also felt a little bit regretful. After all, when it comes to the best smelting module, the craftsman's soul must be ranked first. Maybe some conditions have not been met. Without thinking any more and without wasting any time, Levi put the iron and coal into the alloy furnace. Grains of experience fell from his body and entered the furnace. Before long, pieces of elf steel came out of the furnace. From now on, Levi can also make equipment for elves. He made a set of elven steel armor on the spot, and after putting it on, he found that the armor value was a whole level higher than the iron suit. Unfortunately, there's still a big gap from the diamond set, but it's not bad. After all, the raw materials are only iron and coal, which are very cheap, and we can't ask for more. In terms of style, unlike the standard military armor with elven-style characteristics worn by the elves, this set of armor is similar to the iron set in shape. Upon closer inspection, some differences in details can be seen, and the color is also slightly different, which is silver gray. Weapons don't need to be made, as they're not as good as the +9 attack sword in hand. However, tools can be updated. Tools made of elven steel are slightly more durable than iron tools, and the digging speed is also a little faster. It would be nice if it could be enchanted. This was not the first time Levi thought so. However, the materials for the enchantment table have always been a big problem. After thinking carefully, Levi realized that he needed too many things: diamonds, obsidian, blaze rods, alchemy table, especially the alchemy table. The raw material for the enchantment table are real after all and can always be obtained, but Levi really doesn't know where to get the blaze rod for the alchemy table. Unless this world can be connected to hell. But is connecting to another dimension really allowed? Levi thought to himself that he must give it a try if he had the chance. In fact, Levi has always had an idea about the raw materials for the alchemy table. Fire demon. The blaze man will catch fire, and the fire demon will also catch fire, so the materials dropped by the fire demon may also be obsidian, diamond, lava, balrog. Is there any place where I can find all these things at once? Dwarf. The dwarf's territory will definitely not be short of these things. Whether it is the dwarf gathering place in the Blue Mountains, the Great Wonder of Moria in the Misty Mountains, or the Iron Hills, they're all built in the mountains, and there are always many minerals in the mountains. Where there are minerals, there is naturally no shortage of sophisticated smelting and forging techniques. Even if there's really no magma, some can be melted out manually with the help of those equipments. So there's a solution to the magma problem. And there are diamonds. Dwarves dig underground all year round, so there must be quite a few of them. As long as you pay a certain price, it is not difficult to get them. As for the last Balrog, at this time, Moria should be full of orcs, and the Balrog is dormant among them. Levi didn't really want to provoke that thing right now. Although he had anticipated some ways to deal with the situation, such as trying infinite water, blocking blocks, adding TNT, using bows and arrows to walk the dog, etc. But if none of them worked, wouldn't he be in trouble? There are still too few ways to deal with it. Levi suddenly thought of Smog. This dragon can breathe fire, so would the material on its body be fireproof? Levi became more and more interested in this dragon. Whether it is the Balrog, the evil dragon, or the current development, everything cannot avoid one word: dwarf. It seems that I have to go to the dwarf territory no matter what. Opening the paper map, Levi looked towards the dwarf's territory. The Iron Hills are too far away. There are dragons in the Lonely Mountain, and Moria is full of orcs. The best place to go is the Blue Mountains. If I remember correctly, the dwarves of Thorin and Durin's clan lived there at that time. It's a good idea to stop by and take a look. It won't be like we won't see each other this time, right? Levi really wanted to see what this downtrodden dwarf king looked like now. In addition, Levi was also envious of the dwarven craftsmanship. If he could unlock the synthesis of the dwarven series of items, it would probably be a good thing. After all, the dwarven forging skills were famous throughout Middle-earth. But all this is a story for later. In recent days, Levi is still busy with the development of the territory. Levi's life was busy and fulfilling during this period. I go mining like crazy every day, half digging iron and half digging stone, replenishing the iron ore and stone. When my backpack is full, I go home, and after putting away the things, I go out mining again, repeating the cycle over and over again. At night, he would take out the ore and burn it in batches, and at the same time repair the city wall that had been built with shoddy work. While repairing, he would also take time to check on the animals and feed them, and occasionally go to harvest the vegetables on the farm when he saw that the crops were almost ripe. This feeling of having something to do every moment and having resources visibly grow every moment because of your own efforts is very addictive. After the city wall was repaired, seeing that the warehouse had more materials, Levi built a blacksmith shop in the industrial area and moved in work blocks such as anvils and workbenches. This is the first building in Levi's territory besides the big castle. After the blacksmith shop was built, Levi, who had nothing to do, walked around the castle again. Suddenly, he looked into the distance and remembered the forest where he had annihilated the oak team before. At this time, the area was still full of potholes, with large holes everywhere caused by explosions. After thinking it over, Levi felt that this was not very aesthetically pleasing, so he took some soil and stones and leveled the terrain. As for the stone pillars that had been erected into the sky before, they had been dismantled by Levi long ago. This thing just stood there and was an eyesore. But when it comes to stone pillars, Levi remembered something else. Falling water. I have never tried this myself. Levi did what he said. He returned to his territory, built a high platform, and laid a small pool underneath. Then, he dragged a wild boar directly up. Kick down. Hum dash. The wild boar was kicked and lost a drop of blood. It kicked its fat legs in the air and screamed. Then, with a splash, he fell into the pool, but without even bending his legs, he got up and ran around happily. Falling water, effective. Levi opened his arms and took a leap of faith on the spot. The air rubbed against my face, and the clothes rustled. Thump! Not a drop of blood was lost. Great! Levi felt quite refreshed when he stood up from the puddle. From this day on, Levi had a new activity, which was practicing landing in the water. That is to release the water in the bucket the moment you land to avoid bleeding. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Whoa, 14 speed. On this day, Levi fed golden carrots to the two fastest horses as usual. This time he was lucky, as the two horses with a maximum speed of 13.5 meters per second gave birth to a foal with a maximum speed of 14 meters per second. When the speed crosses this line, it can barely be considered as entering the threshold of a good horse. The moving speed has achieved another breakthrough. After half a month of accumulation, the ranch is now full of vitality, no longer just a few cows and pigs. Not to mention live chickens, cows, and pigs, the meat has almost filled a box. Just looking at the ranch, Levi always felt that something was missing. What is it? Oh yes, sheep. How could I forget this? Although there were no sheep, Levi really felt that there was no need for them. He had no shortage of meat, and wool was of no use except for making carpets and beds. Without demand, there is no production. However, out of some kind of obsessive-compulsive disorder, Levi decided to bring 2 sheep back from his next trip. It's almost there. The territory is prosperous, and there is nothing that needs further construction. It's time to embark on a new journey and find something new. But not before that. Levi opened the mineral box, looked at the rows of iron blocks inside, and directly took out more than a dozen groups. Then, placed them throughout the territory. Thus, iron golems were born one by one. Before long, there were more than 200 iron golems in the territory. As soon as these iron giants were born, they patrolled along the outermost circle of the territory, on the city walls, and under the city walls. 200 iron golems may sound like a lot, but when they're scattered across the city walls of the entire territory, they seem too few. These iron golems have their own fixed active areas. They usually do not wander around and interfere with activities within the territory. They only gather together when the territory is in danger. With such a large army, Levi would not have to worry about the territory suffering even if the next time an orc army of thousands came. Safety is guaranteed. After releasing the iron golem, Levi turned around and sharpened his knife, heading towards the chicken farm. After a while, 2 sets of chicken feathers appeared in the backpack, and the chicken farm was more than half empty, but it was soon filled with chicks that came out of the eggs. After so much time has passed, I've already collected several boxes of eggs, and there is no shortage of them at all. After slaughtering the chicken, Levi went to the warehouse to look around and barely managed to piece together a group of flints, all of which were byproducts of mining. At this point, it is clear what to do. Arrow. After the previous battles, Levi has deeply realized the truth that an inch longer is an inch stronger. No matter whether it is useful or not, it is always a good idea to carry some combat equipment with you. After making 4 sets of arrows, Levi took out 16 gold ingots and made 2 golden apples. Another life-saving trump card. If you eat the golden apple and lambas together, Levi's life will become ridiculously hard within 10 seconds. I don't know if the elves will like this thing. Looking at the golden apple in his backpack, Levi decided that next time he went to Rivendell, he might bring one to Agra as a gift. It's a pity that we can only make 2 after searching the entire territory. Most of the gold has been used to make golden carrots to feed the horses, so the reserves are really not enough. It's lacking, too much lacking. At this moment, Levi began to think about the ogres again, but it would not be a sustainable way to catch all the fish in the pond. If only there were a gold mine. Traveling always comes at any time. Unconsciously, traveling and exploring had become Levi's normal routine. Carrying a backpack of supplies and strategic reserves, Levi chose a bright morning, led the fastest horse in the manger, put on the saddle and armor, and officially started his next long journey. As soon as he got on the 14-speed horse, Levi immediately felt the difference. The scenery on both sides was receding at a significantly faster speed, and the wind blowing towards us was also slightly stronger. The physical sensation is significantly enhanced. Levi was increasingly looking forward to the full-speed horse. At this moment, Levi was riding a horse and looking at the map. First stop, Bree. The distance from Wayside Burr to Bree is not much different from the distance to Rivendell, and the road conditions are even better. In addition, we are using the best horses this time, so we expect to arrive before dark. Just keep going. Before daybreak, Levi had already arrived at an unknown gathering place. Not far from the road was a small inn, the Forgotten Inn. Looking at the familiar inn, after thinking for a while, Levi dismounted and walked in. There were few people in this slightly quaint inn, with only 3 or 2 tables where people were eating. Levi saw a familiar figure among them, so I sat directly opposite. The man who was eating coarse bread with a glass of water raised his head, and his bright eyes under the hood stared at the person who suddenly sat down opposite him. Levi. Faradin put down the bread and took a sip of water. Why are you here? Do you need my help? He did not forget that he had given Levi a silver coin. That was his promise. He told Levi in person that if he had any problems, he could come to the Forgotten Inn and wait for him. But today, it was just a coincidence that they ran into him. Nothing, just thought you might be here, so I came in to say hello. You've returned from the valley? It's been a long time since I came back. In fact, I'm on my second long journey now. I remember it was less than a month since you left. It's been half a month since I came back. Faladane was silent for a while. Reply quickly. By the way, my people told me that half a month ago, a group of orc cavalry marched westward from the edge of the wilderness, heading this way. I suspect their target might be you. Faradin said, with a serious look on his face. A cavalry squad of hundreds of men is not easy to deal with. In fact, I was planning on going to Roadside Fort to tell you about this. Levi raised the corner of his mouth and retreated tactically. Your information is outdated, Faradin. I've already wiped out that team. The destruction of my iron golem was also my fault. No problem there. Faradin was silent for a moment. I haven't been around here recently, so the news may be a little behind schedule, but no matter what, I'm glad you're okay. By the way, where are you going this time? Blue Mountains. We have just left the elves' territory, and we're going to look for the dwarves. I have some things to do over there. Well, you seem to be busy all the time. A busy man in Middle-earth. After a brief chat, the two had nothing more to say. With a glass of water, Faradin quickly ate the remaining bread, stood up, and said, "Let me see you off." I don't know if it was an illusion, but Levi always felt that the way he stood up was a little stiff. May you be able to go with the wind. Outside the inn, Faradin gave his parting wishes. However, Levi did not get on the horse immediately. He just stared at him, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. What happened? Are you hurt? Levi suddenly asked. How did you know? Well, fighting so often will inevitably lead to minor injuries. I just need to rest for a while. It doesn't look like a minor injury to me. Levi looked at Faradin's health bar. 12/25, it's really not easy for this guy to still be standing now. He has literally lost half his life. 1. As he spoke, the vagrant lost another drop of blood. No, buddy, don't die in front of me. Levi sighed, took out an apple with a warm golden color, and handed it to Faradin. Take this, is full of life force. Maybe it can heal you. This is too expensive. Faradin shook his head. If he was not mistaken, the apple seemed to be made of gold. Regardless of whether it was edible or not, it must be very expensive. No need to say more. Take it. I don't want you to die in front of me. Levi was determined and stuffed the golden apple into Faradin's hand. Seen through. Faradin no longer concealed his anger, and his fighting spirit suddenly weakened, and his fighting spirit was instantly retracted. Eat. Levi stared at him. The tired homeless man looked at the apple that seemed to be made of gold, hesitated for a moment, and then took a bite. Sweet juice burst out from the apple. In an instant, Faradin's eyes widened. The moment the flesh fell into his stomach, his whole body from head to toe seemed to cheer, and the cuts and poison wounds on his body healed at an incredible speed. At the same time, a faint golden light appeared on his body's surface, making him feel invincible. This is an extra layer of shield. When the apples are eaten, the health points are restored to full. 25. This thing is so precious. Faradin realized the value of this apple in an instant. I owe you my life. If there is anything you need me to do, please tell me. Levi wanted to say it was nothing, but then he thought, nomads are walking around in the wilderness and are well informed. Maybe they can. In that case, let me think. Do you know where there's a gold mine? As far as I know, there are some territories of the dwarves, and also in the human kingdoms in the south, such as Gondor. No. These gold mines with owners are not useful. I want to know if there are any gold mines without owners. If there are none, gold mines occupied by orcs will do, or even those in Mordor. You know what I mean? Faradin was thoughtful. I see. As for the places where gold mines are produced, I seem to have heard of some of them. However, it may take some time to confirm. It's okay, I'll wait for you. Faradin nodded heavily, obviously considering this matter as some kind of top priority. Bidding farewell to Faradin, Levi continued westward, passing through Bree and passing the Barrow Downs. It was night when they arrived near the ancient tomb. Levi stayed there for a while and deliberately made some noise and light, but unfortunately, he failed to attract the corpse demon this time. So I had to give up. The next day, during the day, Levi entered the Shire and rode along the road. It was not until noon that we stopped at a hobbit's dwelling. Dismount and knocked gently on the door. Wait a minute. Please let me take this steak out of the pot first. Oh, forgive me, I didn't expect to have guests at this time. The chattering sound came from far away and soon stopped behind the door. Crunch! The door opens. Bilbo looked up into the sunlight, squinting for a few seconds before he suddenly cried out. Levi! The hospitable hobbit immediately walked out the door, opening his arms excitedly. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you again, Levi. It's been, several months since we last met. Come on, come in, we can have lunch together. I have some good wine. We can taste it together. Listening to Bilbo's chatter, Levi felt a bit dazed. The hobbit continued to live his comfortable life. After not seeing him for several months, neither Bilbo nor Bag had changed at all. Even the room he had lived in was still the same, with the bedding and bed neatly folded. Speaking of which, I always feel that you seem to have changed a lot. I mean, the feeling that I can't explain. I think a lot of things must have happened to you recently, right? Just as Levi was sighing, Bilbo suddenly appeared and looked at Levi. The journey won't be long. To be fair, Bilbo was right. A lot of things have happened in the past few months. Levi has killed hundreds of oaks with his own hands. He also successfully transformed from a rookie who knew nothing into a veteran who could fight calmly in various occasions. Although he had never fought in any large-scale battles, he often had to deal with various assaults and sneak attacks. After many battles, Levi's temperament has undergone a transformation without him realizing it. You look like you've been to a very far place. Is there anything new happening, Levi? A lot of things did happen. Levi sighed. Seeing Levi's expression, Bilbo knew that the next period of time would not be boring, because this chef was very good at telling stories. If I had known you were coming, I would have bought some fresh food. Let's eat something else for lunch today, and then I'll go to the market. Bilbo was looking through the food storage shelves, already thinking about what to eat for the next few days. But unfortunately, Levi only stayed here for one day. The time we spend together is always short. The next morning, Levi mounted his horse and prepared to set off. Are you really not going to stay a little longer, Levi? Bilbo felt a little sorry. Haha, don't worry, Bilbo, we will meet again. Bilbo put his hands on his hips and nodded. Looking at Levi's receding figure, my thoughts also flew to the horizon, thinking about the story Levi told me yesterday. Trollwood, orcs, Rivendell, elves, all these novel things made the hobbit yearn for it. And he even wanted to, no, forget it, adventure. Impossible, this tiring and insecure life was no match for the comfortable days at Bag End. Shaking his head, Bilbo went back inside. But I still couldn't help but look into the distance through the window. A few days later, in the woods near the Shuin River, Levi, wearing a suit of elven steel armor, galloped on his horse, avoiding the trees in front of him, and couldn't help cursing. It's really weird. There are oaks in this place. Roar, and there are wargs. At this moment, there were at least a dozen wolves chasing Levi, 5 of which had orcs riding on them. I should have known not to take this shortcut. With such a small number of troops, Levi is actually not afraid at all. But his horse was afraid. Hiss! Levi's horse was hit by an arrow from the archer behind him before he was paying attention, and it raised its hooves and paused for a moment. As soon as the horse paused, a wolf pounced on it and bit its butt hard. These beasts particularly like to bite butts. Fuck off! Levi stabbed backwards with his sword, piercing the wolf's head on the spot, and its body fell behind. Turning back, Levi took out some wheat and fed the horse to fill up its health. If it were an ordinary horse, it would have been shot or bitten to death several times along the way. Oak behind him screamed and shot another arrow, which passed by Levi's head, shocking Levi so much that his breathing stopped. Tisk! Seeing that it was no use taking the beating unilaterally, Levi had no choice but to draw his bow and shoot an arrow behind him. Whoosh! As expected, the shot went astray. Ha! Oak, who was chasing behind him, laughed. It has to be said that the fact that Levi's archery skills on horseback were not as good as those of any orc archer he met on the roadside really made him feel a little embarrassed. Laugh. If I wasn't riding a horse, I would have killed all of you when I got down. Levi gritted his teeth, but kept pulling the bow. What lacks in accuracy is made up for in quantity. If you shoot more often, you will always hit 1 or 2. Anyway, there are a lot of arrows. Have you ever seen an archer carrying hundreds of arrows? As the wolves fell to the ground one by one after being shot by arrows, the orcs behind them also realized that something was wrong. Are this man's arrows unlimited? I didn't even see where the arrow came from. Bah, you rubbish, come down and beat me if you dare, cried an orc. That's what you said. Levi jumped off his horse at lightning speed, bypassing a big tree. He quickly put down several boulders to block the road behind him. At the same time, he took the initiative to run back to intercept the wolf that wanted to jump over. Seeing Levi coming to the door on his own initiative, the wargs didn't care about the horse blocked by the boulder behind them and roared and rushed straight towards Levi. However, Levi just chopped down the two wargs with one sword left and one sword right. The two wolves only took away a little of his blood, which was restored in the blink of an eye. After these two wargs, a group of belated wargs came over one after another. Some bit Levi's kidneys, some tore his thighs, and some even jumped up to gnaw his head. In a few seconds, Levi was covered with wargs, but only the occasional -1 proved that they could not cause much damage. No matter how much they gnawed, they could not recover as fast as Levi. The greatest damage they caused was probably mental attack. Levi was covered in smelly saliva. The next thing is simple. Just kill and keep killing. Aha, you're dead. An orc saw that Levi was covered with wolves and was sure that he would not survive, so he rushed over and started chopping him with a butcher knife. But the next moment, a sword pierced through the wolf's body and stabbed his throat. Fuck! He's still biting so hard even though he's dead. Levi tore off the wolf hanging on his body and chased after the remaining orcs, who were belatedly aware of the fear. Blue Mountain Dwarf Camp reputation +15. Linden Area reputation +10. The notification of increasing reputation came, foreshadowing the annihilation of this small group of miscellaneous soldiers. Levi opened the faction interface and suddenly realized that the reputation of the Linton area had reached 160 at some point, but he didn't seem to have done anything here. What? Levi suddenly discovered something. It turns out that the reputations of Linden and Rivendell are interchangeable. But it's normal when you think about it. These two were originally separated from the same family, so it's reasonable to be considered as the same camp. I have established good relationships in Linton. As for the dwarves, at present, it seems that at least the dwarves in Blue Mountain have become friendly towards him, so he doesn't have to worry about being questioned when he goes there. Knock off the cobblestone and mount the horse. Levi continued westward and soon arrived at the river. After crossing the Shuan River, walk a little further and you will reach the Blue Mountains. However, swimming on horseback is obviously unrealistic. Levi took out his workbench and made a rectangular boat on the spot. He pushed the horse on first, then sat on it himself, selected the direction, and started paddling. The boat is not big, just big enough for one person and one horse. Under Levi's operation, the two oars kept rowing and turning, driving the boat across the cloud shadows in the river, leaving behind ripples. Rowing was no slower than riding a horse, and it didn't take long before the not-so-narrow river was crossed. Standing on the ground again and looking into the distance, Levi knew that he was not far from his destination. Levi opened the paper map he took from Bilbo again. No one knew who drew this map and when, and the specific address of Thorin Hall was not marked on it. But it doesn't matter. After Levi goes there in person and opens the map, he can just mark it on the system map himself. He won't have to worry about not finding it in the future. Although there was no address on the map, Levi still knew a vague location. It should be in the southwest direction. Most of the time on the road is always boring and uninteresting. It was not until the evening of the next day that Levi finally breathed a sigh of relief when he looked at the mountains at the end of the skyline and the light at the foot of the mountain, and stepped onto the solid and well-maintained road. To be honest, this journey has not been easy. Because he really didn't know where the main road was, Levi followed the locations he had seen in his memory and walked through the woods and mountains little by little and made his way straight in the wild. It could be said to be going the wild way in the literal sense. The terrain was so rugged in some places that the horses could hardly jump over it. At this moment, Levi finally found the neat road leading to the dwarf gathering place. He was so moved that he immediately rode his horse towards the light. Only when he approached the tall gate embedded in the mountain did he slow down and walk slowly towards it. In front of the huge building, Levi looked up. It has to be said that although the dwarves are not tall, their architectural style is majestic. Levi had to look up again and again to see the entire building in front of him. Even the door is so big. I guess this mountain must have been hollowed out, and the space inside must be even bigger. Marvel at our architecture, human. As he was looking at it, he suddenly heard a voice behind him. He turned around and found a dwarf on the side of the road, looking him up and down. "You don't look like a traveling merchant. What's the matter with you coming here?" he asked. Levi dismounted and greeted the dwarf, who looked quite old. "Greetings. This is my first time in the dwarven territory. I heard that the dwarven forging skills are unmatched, so I wanted to come and see it for myself." Upon hearing what Levi said, the dwarf immediately looked very proud. You've come to the right place. The craftsmanship of the dwarves is incomparable to those guys outside. The finest armor, sharp weapons. As long as you have enough silver coins, you can take them all away. Although we generally don't do business with strangers, you look pretty good. I can tell you must be a good fighter who has fought on the battlefield. If it were me, I would be happy to sell you some good stuff. The dwarf was quite enthusiastic. After chatting with Levi for a while, he saw that Levi looked unfamiliar with the place and pointed him in the direction. "If you want to find the inn, turn right after entering the door. If you want to buy something, go left. There are several blacksmith shops and a caravan that just returned recently." "Thank you." After bidding farewell to the kind dwarf, Levi led the horse and walked, sighing. Who said that dwarves are rude and have no manners? Rumor has it that this is not quite polite, and it is also very enthusiastic. As he was thinking about it, Levi soon stepped through the huge door and walked into the hall in the mountains where the dwarves gathered. The dwarves' daily life and production work are basically carried out in the mountains. Except for caravans, they rarely travel far. After the fall of the lonely mountain, this hall was where Thorin and his people settled. Although he was mentally prepared, Levi was still amazed when he actually saw the scenery inside. As soon as he entered the door, Levi opened his eyes wide. The space inside the cave looked much larger than outside. There was a dome that seemed to have no end, a chandelier tied with thick iron chains, glowing stones inlaid on the walls, various houses and bridges built along the valley, and magnificent statues and tall walls that extended from the underground river to the point where one had to look up to see the top corners. The sound of metal knocking echoed in the huge space, accompanied by a bit of noise. Following the instructions of the dwarf just now, Levi looked to the right, and sure enough, he saw a multi-story building with many dwarves coming and going in it. "This is the hotel. Welcome. Sit anywhere." The hotel owner greeted Levi, who came in with a big belly. "Oh, but it looks like you need to settle your mount first. Move on, young man, and find a place for the guest's horse." The boss called the young dwarf next to him and quickly made clear arrangements for Levi and his mount. After a while, Levi sat down at the table, waiting for the dwarf's special food. Strong liquor, barbecue. The delicious food was served soon. This time, Levi brought a lot of silver coins with him, all of which were taken from the ogre's lair. This money was enough for him to spend lavishly for a while. Perhaps it was dinner time, as more and more dwarves gathered around, and the restaurant on the first floor, which had seemed a bit quiet before, became lively, with many people choosing to eat here. However, with so many dwarves, Levi's presence seemed a bit out of place. "Human? I haven't seen one in a long time. It's really rare. It doesn't look like he's here on business. Maybe he's traveling. Still pretty slim, though. He may have a nice body, but he doesn't have a nice beard. I don't know where he came from." Levi took a deep breath and withdrew his comment that even a dwarf could be quite polite. "These chatterbox dwarves can be really noisy sometimes. Oh, my beard. This is the first time I see a human. Hey, brother over there, let's have a drink." A dwarf who looked very young suddenly raised a cup full of ale and raised it towards Levi. Levi raised his eyebrows and had no choice but to raise his glass and respond. "Ha ha ha!" The dwarf laughed loudly and drank the beer in the cup in one gulp. At the end, he burped, wiped the foam off his beard, and let out a hearty groan. Levi was naturally not weak, and he drank it all in one breath without changing his expression. After drinking, he raised an eyebrow at the dwarf, indicating that the cup in his hand was empty as well. SHH. Some dwarves immediately whistled and started to make a noise. Drink him! Drink him! Soon, the surrounding dwarves who were looking for trouble started to make a fuss. Levi looked to his boss for help helplessly, and then found that his boss was also joining in the fun. Not Buddy. Okay, come on. Levi slammed the table and accepted the challenge on the spot. That's great. If you can get me drunk today, I'll pay for you. The young dwarf uttered a harsh word and asked the boss to bring 2 large barrels of wine on the spot. With a loud crash, the 2 tables were put together. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Tons, tons, tons. What? The 2 of them just started drinking without even asking for side dishes. The dwarf was happy. There were few people in this area who could drink more than him. This human was destined to lose today. Levi was also happy because being drunk was just a buff to him, and he had several buckets of milk in his backpack. As for the issue of appetite, although alcohol can also increase satiety, it seems that you can still keep drinking even if you are full, but the duration of the drunken buff will also increase. This cup is a toast to something. Let's toast to our meeting. Burp. The dwarf raised the wine glass and drank it down in gulps. Well, thank you very much, but this is the 5th time you've toasted our encounter. Levi continued tons and tons. At this moment, the table in front of the 2 of them was already piled with wine glasses. Judging from the capacity of the glasses, each glass weighed at least more than 1 kilogram. The 2 of them drank nearly 20 cups each. I'm telling you, but you're not allowed to spit it out. The dwarf had foam at the corners of his mouth and was pointing at Levi, his eyes looking a little out of focus. Levi put down the empty cup and said lightly, okay, now I think I feel something. Is this what it means to be drunk? Boom. Levi spoke softly, his eyes clear and without any sign of forcing himself. However, these words sounded like the whispers of a devil to the young dwarf. He rolled his eyes and fell asleep on the table on the spot, with foam oozing from the corners of his mouth. Levi's words really made his faith collapse. The winner is the human traveler. The boss stepped on the stool and raised Levi's arm, declaring his victory. Oh. Blue Mountain Area Dwarf Reputation +10. The base castle on the ground has its unique uses. As for the floating city, it will be mentioned later. Is this okay? Looking at the reputation increase prompt that suddenly appeared, Levi retreated strategically. I can only say that dwarves are worthy of being dwarves. Drinking can increase their reputation so much. But this also gave Levi more ideas. To increase your reputation, you don't necessarily have to kill people. As he was thinking, Levi felt his gaze gradually drifting upwards. Oh no, this is not good. The aftereffects are starting to set in. Take a look at the status bar. Drunk, 5H34 minute. I think I need to go upstairs and put my luggage away first. Please, sir, but please pay attention to your head. After all, this place may be a little low for you. Boom. There was a crash on the stairs. Gentlemen, I'm fine, Levi shouted, and immediately returned to his room. Take out the milk, tons of tons. Call. The drunken state is instantly removed. Levi did not forget the purpose of his coming here, but the sudden change did disrupt his rhythm. But at least I didn't have to pay for the hotel myself, as the young dwarf promised to pay for it. After sobering up, Levi didn't stay here for long and went straight out to the market. There were quite a few people in the market at the moment. Just as the polite dwarf we met on the road said, their caravan had just returned and brought a lot of fresh goods, and everyone was taking advantage of this time to spend money. Among the dwarves, Levi was indeed a bit conspicuous, but at least no one came to disturb him. After all, Levi's reputation was friendly. As he walked, soon several blacksmith shops on the roadside attracted Levi's attention. Fine swords and armor. Levi walked over and took a look at the goods in the shop. Dwarven steel sword attack, +7. Are the swords sold in any roadside shop actually good swords of the same level as diamond swords? Interested in weapons? Then you've come to the right place. I have some great stuff here. It's really good stuff. Levi nodded, but he didn't need it. None of them are as good as your own sword. After looking at the weapons, Levi looked at the armor again, touched it left and right, and tapped it twice with his fingers. Finally, the blacksmith couldn't stand it anymore. "Don't look at it, human. That armor is made for dwarves. You can't fit into it. If you want, I can tailor it for you, but it may take a while." "No, I'll just take a look." Levi was a little depressed. He had seen the sword and touched the armor. Why haven't I unlocked the crafting recipe yet? Levi began to think back to the time he unlocked the new formula in Rivendell. Yes, it is unlocked by seeing the forging table in the valley. In this case, the dwarven recipes can only be unlocked by visiting the dwarven exclusive forging place. Have you decided what to buy? There's nothing I want here. Levi shook his head and asked, "Do you have diamonds or obsidian?" The dwarf blacksmith looked at Levi strangely. "Do I have any here? Those things can't be used as weapons or tools. I suggest you go ask the miners who often stay underground. Maybe they have some collections. Or you can go and see the guy over there. He sells jewelry." The blacksmith kindly showed Levi a way. "Thank you." Passing the bustling caravan, Levi came to a relatively quiet house and asked the question again. "Obsidian? What's the use of this thing?" "I don't have any, but I have some diamonds." "What kind do you want? A ring, a necklace, or a bracelet?" "I want a whole piece." The jeweler looked Levi over carefully. As the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. This human master, the material of the clothes he wears is really good. It is probably luxury level among humans. He doesn't look like he is short of money. "How big do you want?" "It has to be this big," Levi said, and gestured with his hands according to the size of the diamond shown in the synthesis table. Although he was gesturing with his hands, he was still a little nervous. After all, he was not sure if he had enough money to buy the diamond he wanted. The jeweler opened his eyes wide and looked at the size that Levi gestured. "Yes, sir, this size, if you want a whole piece, I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult to get, but if it's small pieces, I can put them together to make a diamond of the same size." "Small pieces?" Levi hesitated for a moment and agreed. "Okay, I can try." Although he didn't know what Levi meant by he could give it a try, the dwarf jeweler still walked into the warehouse, rummaged around for a while, and finally scraped out a pile of broken pieces. "Let's see if it works." Unlocked recipe, diamond grains. A pile of diamond nuggets can be crafted into a large diamond. "Sure. How much do you sell it for?" The jeweler named a number. Levi took a look at the silver coins in his backpack and felt that these ogres were indeed a bit poor. "I don't have that many with me. Can I exchange them with other gems?" "Yes, if the gems are worth the price." Hearing this, Levi took out the last few gems on his body, all of which were picked from the corpse monster. The corpse demon is still exerting its residual heat. These gems are of good quality. They can be exchanged for diamonds 1.2 times their size more. These are not enough to exchange for all. Make up the rest with silver coins. Levi looked painful, back to before liberation overnight, but finally got it. Achievement, diamond. Back at the inn, as the achievement prompt appears, a blue diamond appears on the workbench. He used most of his silver coins and 3 small gems to exchange for a diamond about the size of his fist. After the synthesis, there was still a small piece left. It took almost all of his fortune to buy such a diamond. "I need another one, but can't afford it anymore." Levi was a little distressed. Suddenly, he remembered what the dwarf jeweler said. Such a large diamond is very rare. I think he said that, right? Levi weighed the heavy diamond in his hand. To be honest, this synthetic diamond is very beautiful, crystal clear, and the color is good at first glance. After thinking about it, Levi went downstairs and asked the boss who was the richest family in the area. A moment later, in another dwarf's residence. "Excellent." The dwarf, who was obviously fatter than other dwarves seen outside, shouted, "Here, here, here, all for you. My silver and gold, all for you, as long as you are willing to give it to me." Big, beautiful, hard diamonds of top quality were too attractive to a wealthy dwarf who loved shiny things by nature. "I don't want gold or silver. I want diamonds. Lots of diamonds. I want them all, whether they are broken or in pieces. Stay here and wait for me for a while." The dwarf hurried out with all his wealth. After waiting for a long time, it was almost time for the next meal. Levi began to doubt whether he could come back today, when the wealthy dwarf finally broke into the house with a small box in his arms, and there was a rustling sound coming from inside. "Look at these. Are they enough? I can guarantee that all the diamonds mined and sold in this area are here, and you won't be able to buy more anytime soon." Levi opened the box and took a look. These broken diamond grains are probably enough to synthesize 5 diamonds. This guy really collects carefully. "That's enough. Here you go. Achievement. Give you diamonds." It was a pleasant transaction. Levi exchanged 1 diamond for enough diamond grains to make 5 diamonds, and the dwarf exchanged some broken diamonds of just passable quality for wholesale export for a large diamond of top quality. This is also a way to make money, Levi thought as he looked at the 5 diamonds in his hand. The diamonds synthesized on the workbench are not only large in size, but also of excellent quality. No matter what the quality was before synthesis, it will be top quality after synthesis. Collect diamonds of average quality, synthesize them, and then sell them. This is a very profitable business. But you can't do this kind of thing too much, otherwise it will depreciate. All the diamonds that are openly for sale in this area should have been sold out by myself. If I want more, I may have to wait for subsequent replenishment. Of course, the dwarves' diamond reserves cannot be limited to this amount, especially since the dwarves here do not live in poverty. But they probably never thought that someone would buy so much at one time, and only buy raw materials and not finished products. Obsidian. Now that we have a way to obtain diamonds, the next thing to do is to deal with another item. This thing is usually useless, and there are no dwarves left. Then we can only start from somewhere else. Let's get some lava. Levi found the blacksmith who had shown him the way before. "Do you have any lava here? I want to get a bucket." "No, what do you want that for?" The blacksmith racked his brains, but couldn't figure out what a traveler would need lava for. Was he going to take it away as a souvenir? That was ridiculous. "I really do need it." No. How much is this sword?" After a moment, Levi bought the only sword in the shop and asked again, "Just 1 barrel is fine. I can pay for it." This sword is indeed not cheap. But as for money, although Levi never carries much with him, with Levi's productivity, he can make a lot of it at any time if he wants. All I can say is spend when you want it, don't save it all. The blacksmith looked at him and finally said with relief, "Well, I have a brother working in the smelting plant. He can help you get some." Seeing that the task could be done, Levi was relieved. If it still couldn't be done, he would plan to bring more supplies to try to dig directly into the mantle. The mantle, it's not certain whether one can survive in such an extreme environment. Taking advantage of the free time, the blacksmith took Levi to the depths of the hall. After going around several turns and almost making Levi dizzy, a spacious forging hall finally appeared in front of them. "Hey, old man, how are you today?" "Not bad." In front of the large furnace in the middle of the forge hall, a dwarf wiped his sweat and swung his hammer to hit a piece of armor. After a while, he stopped when he finished this small stage of the work, came over and formally greeted the blacksmith. "Who is this?" He looked at Levi. "My guest wants a bucket of lava. See if you can help him." "That's easy, but is magma enough?" "Yes." Levi answered immediately and took out a bucket. "Just fill this bucket." "Okay, weird request." After chatting with his old friend for a while, the blacksmith went back. After all, he still had business to run in the shop. On this side, Levi looked at the various equipment in the forging hall and felt itchy. "If I were you, I wouldn't touch it. If you don't want your fingers to get burned, stay away." The dwarf kindly gave a reminder, but Levi touched it anyway. 1. Hush-ha-dash. Hot. Special multi-block structure, dwarf furnace array detected. New synthesis formula unlocked. It is good. At this moment, Levi finally got what he wanted. "You are even more reckless than the most reckless dwarf I have ever seen," the dwarf next to him said while adding fuel and stones to the furnace. Levi laughed and focused all his attention on the synthesis table. Furnace array. This is a multi-block structure that can be used to smelt some special metals and liquids. For example, magma. All you need to do is put in some fuel and enough cobblestone to artificially create magma, just like the dwarf next to him is doing now. "Can I take a tour here?" Looking at the pile of large equipment nearby, Levi was very excited. "You can look, but you are not allowed to touch." "Okay." Levi took a look around, and soon, several multi-block structures appeared in the synthesis table. These were all technologies unique to the dwarves. With these things, their burning process will be much faster in the future, and dwarf series weapons and equipment can also be forged. It is worth mentioning that most of the dwarves' weapons are heavy weapons, such as battle axes, throwing axes, hammers, etc. In fact, dwarves also like to use these. Levi guessed that the sword in the blacksmith shop might not be easy to sell, and only when he met someone willing to buy it did he agree to help out a little. In addition to weapons, Levi also obtained higher-level tools. Dwarven Steel Mining Pickaxe. This is a pickaxe specially used by dwarves for mining. It is very hard and much stronger than an iron pickaxe. Although its durability is still not as good as a diamond pickaxe, it can be used to mine obsidian. At this moment, all the materials for making the enchantment table and the Hell Gate are available. Although his body is still in Blue Mountain, Levi's heart has already drifted back home, and he has already thought about where to put the two things. It should have been done long ago. Just as Levi was in a daze, the noise from the furnace made him turn his head. I saw a glowing liquid flowing out of the pipe, gradually filling the iron bucket. What you want? After expressing his gratitude to the dwarf and paying him enough for a drink, Levi put away the lava bucket. Achievement hot. The basic purpose of this trip to Blue Mountains has been achieved. By the way, I heard that this place is led by the king of Durin's dwarves, Thorin Oakenshield. After collecting the lava, Levi turned around and asked the dwarf about it. Yes, I'm glad you've heard of our leader's name. It's under his leadership that we can live the good life we have now. The dwarf answered, looking at Levi and then at the location of the lava barrel. Where's the bucket? How come it disappeared in the blink of an eye? Is your leader still here? Levi was not sure when Thorin set out for Bree. The only thing he was sure of was that next year Thorin would meet Gandalf and Bree and then start the expedition to the Lonely Mountain. The dwarf suddenly looked behind Levi at the entrance of the hall. He came. Steady footsteps came from behind. When Levi turned around, he saw a tall for a dwarf with muscular arms who looked very strong walking towards the forging table without saying a word. There was a gloom on his face that seemed like it would never go away. Even though Levi had never seen him before, he could confirm it at the first sight. This man is Thorin Oakenshield. The dwarf beside him bowed to Thorin, and Thorin paused slightly and nodded in response. Then, he looked at the human next to him who seemed to stand out. Normally, if someone broke into the dwarf's workshop, they would definitely be kicked out, but this person looked quite pleasing to the eye, and his face did not look like that of a bad person. Just like he always did when meeting strangers, Levi gave a slight greeting without being humble or arrogant. Thorin stared at this impressive human for a few seconds and nodded. Then, he went to his own place and started forging work. Perhaps Thorin will leave here and go to the human town soon, but probably not now. During this period, Thorin had only one obsession, which was to retake the Lonely Mountain. Ever since he inherited the title of King of the Dwarves of Durin, his desire to retake his homeland became stronger and stronger, tormenting his body and mind day and night. But apart from being a little worried, Thorin was still normal at this time. He had the bearing and skills that a king should have. The dragon was still far away from him. We met once, and there was nothing much to say. Levi returned to the hotel and stayed there for a few more days to experience the customs and culture of the dwarves and to visit the market to buy some local specialties. I also bought a lot of lapis lazuli, by the way. This beautiful blue stone is also produced among the dwarves, but the demand is not great. According to observation, this thing is generally used by them as floor or wall decoration. Levi got a bunch of it without spending too much money. In this way, he walked around and visited until the few silver coins left in his backpack were all gone, and then Levi was ready to go back. At this point, this trip to the Blue Mountains has come to an end. Oh, what a pity! Our drinking king is leaving. You're the best drinker I have ever seen. Sir, please tell me your name. Upon learning that the human who had come from afar was about to leave, the innkeeper personally went out to see him off for a few steps. To be honest, this innkeeper's temperament is really flexible. He is polite when he should be polite, and as noisy as other dwarves when he should make a fuss. Levi. Levi left his name. Levi. I'll remember that. You're welcome to come again next time. Haha. If you're free next time, I think we can have a drink together. Next time, I don't know when it will be. Without much lingering, Levi mounted his horse and walked along the road out of the mountain. As soon as he left the safe area where the dwarves lived, Levi immediately put on full armor and galloped through the mountains and forests. His silver-gray appearance made him look like someone who was not easy to mess with. Ordinary bandits and solitary orcs would probably retreat 3 feet away when they saw it. Levi today is no longer the ignorant adventurer who just came out of the Charles. He has walked a lot and seen a lot of blood. He has no intention of teasing those bandits who may be watching in secret. He wears armor when he needs to in places where there may be danger. At this moment, Levi obviously values safety and efficiency more than simplicity and beauty. Although this armor is actually not ugly, there weren't many twists and turns along the way. A breeze blew, bringing a hint of coolness. By the Shuan River, Levi squatted down and lightly touched the river water with his fingers. It's getting cold. Autumn is coming. Far away in the Shire, Bilbo had the same thought in his mind. He put on a coat and sat in the house, looking at the stars in the sky through the window and smoking a pipe made in Charles. It's good, it's good. I can see the stars when I look up, and I can see the garden, grass, and river outside when I look down. Moreover, there's a warm stove next to it, so there's no need to worry even when winter comes. With such a good life, what else could you ask for? I don't know how Levi is doing now. I hope he has the best journey. It has been a while since Levi left, but the stories he told seemed to still linger in my ears. He said that the destination of this journey is the Blue Mountains in the west, which must be a spectacular place. As Bilbo thought about this, he gradually felt his eyelids unable to support themselves and soon went to bed and fell asleep. The next morning, dong dong dong, there was a knock on the door. Wait a minute, please wait a minute. Please let me turn this fried egg over first. Oh, mainly because I didn't expect anyone to come at this time. Crunch. As the sound got closer, the door opened. After settling the horses and packing his backpack, Levi immediately ran to the warehouse to get a bunch of materials, then rushed to the industrial area to start building various equipment. First up is the dwarf smelting array. This thing is almost larger than the blacksmith shop building next to it. It took Levi a lot of effort and used a lot of iron to build it. Next are the various dwarven forging tables, both large and small, including a large pendulum that requires a support point above the head to build. After thinking about it, Levi simply expanded a very large underground forging workshop under the industrial zone and moved all the dwarf-related equipment down there. This is the same working environment as the dwarves. It's all underground. Levi turned around with a pile of coal, threw it into the smelting array, and then added stones into it. As the fuel continues to burn and release energy, the rocks inside gradually melt, and barrels of magma are produced. Levi put them directly into the water, and they turned into obsidian. Then dig it out with a dwarven steel pickaxe. The raw materials are now available. After a moment, in a new unplanned area, Levi opened the workbench. Achievement: Enchanter. After a while, a cube with an obsidian base, diamonds inlaid on the corners, and a book floating in the middle was placed on the ground. The enchantment table is finally done. Sensing someone approaching, the book automatically opened and turned the front side towards Levi for easier reading. Fantastic! When he touched the book, some strange runes appeared inside. No matter how hard Levi looked at it, he could only understand a little bit, and the rest was all gibberish. Only one of the properties obtained by enchantment can be known in advance. Of course, Levi would not start enchanting now. After all, the enchanting table needed a bookshelf to maximize its effectiveness. Achievement: Librarian. Soon, rows of 2-meter-high bookshelves surrounded the enchantment table. As if inspired, transparent runes slowly floated out from the bookshelves and converged towards the floating book in the middle of the enchantment table. Staring at the enchantment table, Levi suddenly thought that the next time Ferretin came, he would definitely say that he was a wizard again. This time, He would not be able to explain himself no matter what he did. Just call him a wizard. It's not a bad name. After confirming that the enchantment table had indeed reached the highest level, Levi took out his ancient elven sword with a little excitement and placed it on the enchantment table. Brush! The ancient sword broke away from Levi's hands and hovered above the enchantment table. 3 options emerged from the book. The first 2 are automatically ignored. Levi looked directly at the third one. Sharp 4. If you are lucky, this option will appear, which means that there will be an attribute of sharpness 4 in this enchantment, and the others are uncertain. Levi glanced at his level. Level 47, enough to enchant a lot of things. Without hesitation, Levi took out the lapis lazuli. Wow! The lapis lazuli melted instantly and turned into a ray of light that condensed on the sword. The final attributes were displayed before Levi's eyes. Sharpness 4, durability 3, sweeping blade 3. Sword attack power increased from 9 to 11.5. Not bad. Levi picked up the ancient elf sword. At first glance, it looked no different from an unenchanted sword, but if you look closely, you will find that it is glowing with a faint, hazy light, which is quite extraordinary. This light does not conflict with the light emitted by the sword when it encounters oak, and it also adds a touch of charm to the sword. The more Levi looked at it, the more he liked it, and he couldn't put it down. This is not one sword and one orc. But the Sharp 4 is a bit ugly after all. Levi took out the elven steel armor from his backpack and put them on one by one to continue enchanting. Protection 4, okay, attached. Durability 3, it feels a bit unstable, so I enchanted a book to refresh it. In this way, Levi's level dropped all the way. By level 29, he has acquired a set of elven steel armor with protection 4 and an enchantment book with durability 3. Seeing that he was almost able to upgrade, Levi went to kill another batch of chickens. Then, enchant the book again. Sharpness 4, underwater breathing. Fortunately, Levi got the attributes he wanted. Thus, a sharp V sword was born, with an attack power of 12 points, surpassing any weapon in the original version. With a set of armor with protection level 4 and an ancient elven sword that is stronger than the nether alloy sword, Levi estimates that if he encounters the 20-man wolf cavalry squad he met in the troll forest last time, he can fight them head-on without a sneak attack. As for the ogres, they could just as easily fight without any skills. At this point, enemies below a certain size could hardly pose any threat to Levi. Leaving the enchantment table and looking at the sword with only 3 attributes in his hand, Levi felt that it was still not enough. But no matter whether the attributes are enough or not, the experience is definitely not enough. Is there any other way to get a good enchanted book? Fishing. Fishing not only allows you to catch treasures, but also provides you with experience. Just a fishing rod needs line. It's hard to imagine that after so much time, I have never gotten the line. Do I really have to find a spider that's big enough to eat people? But spiders this big seem to only be found in Black Forest or Mordor. And many more. Levi suddenly remembered a human town he had passed in the Bree area before. The farmers there seemed to grow flax? Flax isn't this thing. Just leave. A day later, Levi returned with some seeds, which he planted directly in the ground, ripening them with bone meal. Crop obtained. Flax. Crafting formula. 1 linen equals 1 thread. Okay, no need to fight the scary giant spider. Levi opened a flax field on the spot, ripened the flax with bone meal, and made a fishing rod. 2 swings. In the blink of an eye, it was dark. Bows, leather, rotten flesh, bowls, tripwire hooks, sticks, water bottles, enchanted books. Unfortunately, there is nothing good to enchant. Looking at the pile of fish and sundries in a box, Levi stretched. Fortunately, after a day of fishing, I reached level 30. He made a new fishing rod on the spot and enchanted it. Luck of the Sea 3, Endurance 3. Too bad there's no bait to fish with. Not bad either. The 3rd level of Favor of the Sea has more than twice the probability of catching treasures than fishing without any enchantment. It was completely dark at this moment. Levi went to the ranch to feed another group of animals. Click! A few pieces of wool fell into the backpack. This was the first time Levi obtained wool. Come to think of it, I haven't made a bed yet. Levi suddenly thought of it. After all, he doesn't need to sleep and can be energetic all the time if he wants. In fact, Levi never slept in his own territory. He was either mining or developing. Even the bed in his room was made of 2 wooden boards, and there was no quilt. After all, that thing can't be used to make sex. Levi seemed to be thinking about something. He himself didn't care, but if there were guests coming in the future, it would be a bit difficult to explain to let them sleep on wooden boards. But not everyone is a vagrant and can sleep anywhere. Finally, Levi made a bed for the first time. Then, I placed one in my master bedroom and all the guest bedrooms. That should be all right now. Levi placed 3 beds in his master bedroom and put them together to form a big bed. With a plop, Levi was ejected onto the bed. Ah, comfortable! Levi groaned and sank into the soft wool bed. He gradually felt sleepy. This was a feeling that no other bed had ever given him. I can only say that it is worthy of being made from a workbench, and it is comparable to the bed in the valley. Although he had some guesses, Levi's heart still started pounding when he actually saw these words. In fact, since he entered this world and saw that the red hearts displayed on the health bar were ordinary red hearts instead of extreme mode red hearts, Levi was wondering if he only had one life. But I have never had the chance to verify it. After all, I can't take the risk of actually dying. But immediately, his mood calmed down. The bed block is only valid in the territory. The territory is Levi's world. You can only revive in the territory. Well, no wonder there was no reminder when I slept somewhere else before. It turns out he was waiting here. It would be a shame not to expand our territory to the whole world. Levi began to feel that this territory was a little small. But, no matter what, if you can avoid dying, try your best not to die. Levi shook his head and ended his thoughts on this matter. After all, this world is full of twists and turns. No one knows what accidents will happen after death. And to be honest, death is a pretty disgusting thing. No one knows whether they will still be themselves after resurrection. As I said, if you can avoid death, then do it. However, Levi still placed a few boxes next to the bed, storing several sets of spare equipment and weapons. That night, Levi got a rare good night's sleep. At sunrise, Levi opened his eyes and felt full of energy, just like usual. There is no special feeling. If I have to say, I felt a little satisfied psychologically. This sleep is like a nap. Today is another day full of hope. You must cast 2 clubs when you wake up in the morning. Levi continued fishing until night. One day passed. Puff! An enchanted book was fished ashore. Experience repair. Levi attached the ancient elf sword as soon as possible. Although this sword is not really needed, its durability is terrifyingly high, and it doesn't even fall very often. Levi can't think of how to cut it off. I can only say that it is worthy of being produced by top craftsmen in the First Era. Perhaps only Sauron's power in his heyday could pose a threat to him. After sitting for a whole day, his hunger bar didn't drop much. He ate something casually and stared at the water. He always felt as if he had forgotten something. The smelting structure has been put down, the forging tools are complete, and the enchantment table is also available. What else is missing? Correct. Gate of Hell. Levi slowly put away his fishing rod and went to the underground workshop to smelt the magma. As buckets of magma turned into obsidian, Levi felt his palms sweating. That's another world. If it's really connected, that person will definitely notice it. Levi could not fathom the attitude of an existence he did not understand. However, things have come to this point. All conditions are in place, and he will never be willing to give up unless he tries. The 10 obsidians were quickly collected. Levi returned to the ground, chose a place, built a fence, then took out obsidian and began to build the Hell Gate. Pat! The last block was built successfully. Levi took out his flint. Click! At this moment, Levi's consciousness seemed to be frozen. The river water is still flowing. A breeze blew, bringing the rustling sound of leaves rubbing against each other. Horses neighed in the pasture. Cows and sheep called out to each other. The grass on the ground swayed slightly, and the stars in the sky twinkled. Everything seemed so peaceful. However, in Levi's eyes, the quiet starry sky above his head seemed to collapse, and pressed down on him. A huge wall descended upon the roadside fort, taking Levi as the base point and extending to the newly built Hell Gate. No one knew how much pressure Levi was under, even though the being seemed to have no ill intentions. In fact, it was even gentle. What Levi called pressure was just the instinct generated by seeing something grand. Not long after, a series of low notes came out from Hell, reminding Levi of the ambient music that came with Hell when he played games. And then there was also a sigh. In a blink, everything returned to normal. Levi froze in place, took a deep breath, and felt himself being released. At the same time, Levi realized some information. The creatures in Hell cannot cross the gate, and at the same time, the creatures in Zhongzhou cannot enter the gate. This is a passage open only to Levi. Also, Hell Gate cannot be built outside of the territory. This rule doesn't seem to be something that was done by that person. It's an existing rule. But think about it. If Hell could expand without limit, then just build a few high-efficiency pigment towers, and with that output, it wouldn't be long before the pigmen would fill up Zhongzhou. By then, there would be no need for any grand music. The whole world would just be listening to the pigments humming together. But at least I can finally go to Hell. Levi put on his armor, took his supplies, and crossed the Hell Gate. Swa! Achievement, go straight down. Levi felt a sense of weightlessness and opened his eyes. The front was filled with scarlet red, followed by waves of heat. Here I come, Hell. Stepping on the somewhat soft Hell rock, Levi felt a little familiar for the first time. Woohoo! A cry came from the distant sky, followed by a huge fireball. Levi immediately became alert. His rich combat experience allowed him to determine the direction of the sound in an instant. He drew out his sword and chopped at the flying fireball. The fireball was hit by the sword but did not explode. Instead, it flew back along the original path. After a while, a prompt popped up. Achievement: Return the favor. This is accompanied by an additional 50 experience points reward. Evil Spirit. Having experienced various battles of varying sizes in Zhongzhou and being accustomed to being ambushed by archers, this slow-moving fireball seemed like a bubble floating in the sky. He didn't even need to concentrate and could easily hit it back. However, in order to prevent another sneak attack, Levi surrounded the Hell Gate with boulders as a protection. It would be ugly if the door was damaged by accident. Swa! Just as he had taken protective measures for the Hell Gate, an arrow attacked from behind. The moment he heard the sound, Levi almost instinctively raised his sword and blocked it. Looking again, I saw that the attack was launched by a skeleton archer spawned in the Soul Sand biome. Slow, too slow. This skeleton's archery is even worse than mine. Levi once again blocked an arrow with his sword, feeling a bit bland. Compared with the intensity of the battles in Zhongzhou, the battles with these monsters were like a fight between children, straightforward and with clear goals. After killing the skeleton with 2 sword strikes, Levi looked around and took in the world. The overall style of Hell is still blocky, but the monsters are more realistic in a realistic style, but that's it. Apart from looking scary, he posed almost no threat to Levi. The weak fighting made Levi feel a little slack. But soon, he perked up and saw that near the Soul Sand Canyon, where the skeleton archers were generated, there was a dark brown brick and stone fortress standing above the magma pool. Hell Fortress! Good luck! Levi picked up the pebbles and started building the road, and soon he stepped on solid Hell bricks. Achievement: Gloomy Fortress. A search soon began. Wherever MC players pass, nothing is left. When all the boxes in the fortress were turned over, Levi's backpack contained 9 diamonds, 23 gold ingots, some iron, various gold equipment, flint, iron horse armor, and a diamond horse armor. Good luck. Of course, in addition to looting the boxes, Levi did not forget the most important thing in Hell Fortress: Netherwart and Blaze spawners. Some people will criticize him for being able to be resurrected, and some will criticize him for not being able to be resurrected. In any case, it is a controversial point that cannot be avoided. Sorry, but I won't be using the resurrection function. I just want to complete the game with 1 life. Netherwart is an essential item for alchemy, and Blaze is a consumable and a producer of raw materials for the alchemy table. Clang! A sword struck the flame man, but the sound of metal colliding was heard. No one knows what material these things are made of, but they are definitely very hard. Boom, boom, boom. Several flame men shot out fireballs and besieged Levi, but these things were useless. Levi pushed his shield forward, and they couldn't even break his defense. Achievement: Dancing with Fire. Blaze Rod, got it. Crunch. Several wither skeletons came around from behind and tried to launch a sneak attack, but they couldn't even touch Levi. With precise distance control, Levi wiped out all of them with just 3 swords. The sweeping blade is so terrifying. Levi swung his sword, not only seriously injuring the target, but the additional impact force also shattered the skeleton next to it. This expressiveness is much better than in the game. After guarding the blaze spawner for some time and collecting materials, there is nothing to loot, so Levi chose to leave the fortress temporarily and dig some soul sand and fluorite. On the way back, I also killed a magma monster and got some round magma ointment. This thing is a good thing and is specially used to treat burns. Enter the portal. Call. Levi breathed a sigh of relief when he returned to Zhongzhou. To be honest, hell is really too hot, and the smell of sulfur in the air is really not pleasant. The air at home is still fresh. Below the farm, Levi once again opened up a large space to grow hellworts. Achievement: Local brewery. After getting the blaze rod, the first thing to do is, of course, to build an alchemy table and make a few bottles of potions. At this moment, the enchantment table, alchemy table, and hell gate have been planned together by Levi. He also built a hall and simply decorated these things. It's looking more and more like a wizard's residence. No need to explain this time. The facts are here. Why not just build a wizard tower? Levi thought about it, took out the freshly brewed swiftness potion, used fluorite to enhance the effect, and then put in gunpowder to turn it into a splash type. Then, head straight to the racecourse. Snapped. The potion bottle shattered, and Levi quickly took out 2 golden carrots and fed them to the 2 fastest horses. Soon, a fast pony was born. This process was repeated twice. At last, speed, 20 meters per second. A top-notch horse was born. After building a separate horse trough for the best horse, Levi went back to continue guarding the alchemy table and refined all the medicine he could. Strength, agility, night vision, water breathing, fire resistance. It's a pity that the ghast hare that I killed before fell into the lava pool. Otherwise, I could have more regeneration potions. Levi picked up the fireproof potion on the alchemy table, and his thoughts flew to Moria. You never imagined it. Fire demon, your magic has no effect on me. But apart from fire magic attacks, the weight level of that thing is still there. Even without using fire, the fire demon can overturn a large building just by charging forward. Not to mention the Balrog. Levi is still unsure about Smog. Not enough, still not enough. Levi looked at the elven steel armor on his body. I'm still too weak now. Stronger and stronger. Levi looked at the 12 diamonds in his backpack and then looked at the Gate of Hell. Hell! But there's also something like Piglin Fortress, which has a chance to contain netherite and random diamond equipment, so it is worth a visit. Levi counted the items in his backpack, took the fireproof potion, golden apples, lambas, and other medicines and food supplies, and stepped into hell again. Right here, the Piglin Fortress is not something easy to find, especially when everything becomes real. Levi chose a direction and explored it unwaveringly, killing skeletons along the way, paving stone roads, passing through strange forests, eating roasted warthogs, drinking potions, and swimming across lava lakes. Finally, after exploring for a few days, one day, whether it was day or night, I saw a dark building. There were some creatures with pig heads and human bodies wandering around, some holding bows and crossbows, some holding golden swords and axes, and occasionally a few wearing armor. Unlike the zombie pigmen encountered on the road, these piglins seemed to be more rational, with a smart light in their eyes. Levi took out the golden boots he had made in advance and put them on his feet. Then, try to get closer to this dark fortress. Achievement: Glory Days. A few pig spirits armed with crossbows passed by, looked at the stranger carefully, sniffed him, and finally chose to ignore him. Levi breathed a sigh of relief. He still had some psychological trauma regarding the piglins. When he first encountered them, he knew nothing and was quickly beaten up. Plus, the damage of these guys is quite high, and some of them are holding axes, so shields are useless and you'll be defeated if you're not careful. It is naturally good to not have to fight now. However, although he is temporarily safe now, Levi knows that if he wants the treasure in the fortress, he'll have to fight with these guys sooner or later. As long as he opens the box in the fortress, all the piglins around will automatically turn hostile, so he has to find a way to get rid of these guys before they become hostile. Levi took out the boulders and built the fortress bit by bit, approaching it. Gold armor is not omnipotent. It can only fool ordinary piglins. You will still be beaten when you encounter barbarians. They don't care whether you have gold equipment on you. Along the way, Levi carefully avoided these brutal guys with 50 health points. If this thing had more blood, it could fight the ogres. However, no matter how strong these barbarians are, they're ultimately no match for the cunning and resourceful tactics of the despicable cube people. A piglin soldier holding a golden axe was patrolling his territory intently. However, just as he walked into a dead end and was about to turn back, he suddenly heard a few clattering sounds behind him. Then I found that as soon as I turned around, there was suddenly a stone wall behind me, blocking the road tightly. Can't get out. The barbarian was dumbfounded and could only hum helplessly behind the wall. Similar things happened everywhere in the fortress. Not only the barbarians, but even ordinary piglin civilians could not escape the fate of being blocked. If you're not careful, you'll be trapped for unknown reasons. A slightly smarter piglin looked at this strange method and suddenly remembered a legend called Ancient Builders, but it was too late anyway. Levi had no trouble plowing the wealth of the fortress from top to bottom. Luckily, I found a pair of diamond pants, a diamond pickaxe, a piece of netherite, and an alloy forging template. In addition, there are dozens of gold nuggets dug from various hidden points, as well as a bunch of miscellaneous items such as golden carrots, crossbows, crying obsidian, etc. found in treasure chests. The backpack is full of them, so you can only selectively take away some valuable things. The first fortress was fruitful. Levi used the weeping obsidian he collected to make an item, a rebirth anchor. This thing can only be placed in hell. Its function is to allow the person bound to it to be reborn 4 times, but only in hell. In this way, Levi can be resurrected in hell without having to worry about dying suddenly. After placing the respawn anchor near the portal and charging it with fluorite, Levi did not stop or go home directly. Instead, he chose to continue forward along the path of the previous fortress. A piece of alloy is far from enough, and so I trudged through hell for a month. On this day, Levi came to a fortress again, blocked the way of all the piglins in the same way, and opened the box. A netherite fragment lies quietly inside. Finally, we're all here. God knows how many piglin fortresses Levi visited for these 4 netherite ingots. Although you can obtain fragments by digging by yourself, not to mention how low the probability of digging this thing is not as fast as finding a fortress by digging by yourself. The key point is that even if you dig them out, there are not enough diamonds to make armor, so you still have to find a way to get some diamonds. But Piglin Fortress can solve this problem. In a box in the middle of each fortress, Levi can always find 1 or 2 pieces of diamond equipment. Maybe it's armor, or maybe it's weapons and tools. In order to take away all these good things, Levi threw away unnecessary food, potions, and other things, and even a set of iron blocks. Anyway, as for iron, there's still entire veins of, or to be mined, so we can never use it all up. All the efforts were not in vain. At this point, the journey to hell came to a temporary end, and Levi returned along the same route. The road to development is always difficult. You have to cross various rugged terrains, build roads across lava lakes, and be careful of various monsters that occasionally spawn. But it is much easier to go back. You just need to run along the path you took when you came. Not a few days later, Levi returned to the portal. He even found time to kill a few evil spirits on the way and chop down a few Endermen when passing through the weird forest. Weighing the slightly cool and smooth pearl in his hand, Levi felt that this thing would be worth a lot of money if sold, but if someone accidentally dropped it from his hand, they would definitely be scared. It's time to go home. Levi missed the sunshine and air of Zhongzhou. Swa! The sunlight was so bright that Levi could hardly open his eyes. After getting used to the scarlet gloom of hell, it feels different to suddenly see the dazzling sunshine and the yellow grass and the green of the world. Autumn is here. Levi couldn't help but sigh as the cool breeze blew. In the blink of an eye, I came into this world, and it has been more than half a year. I always feel like I'm either taking an adventure or on the way to an adventure. Taking a deep breath and exhaling the lingering sulfur smell in his nose, Levi stretched hard and enjoyed the tranquility of the world. Then, go to the warehouse to pack up your backpack a bit and go straight to the enchanting table. Fortunately, or rather, his luck was not bad. Levi found a complete set of diamond equipment in many piglin fortresses, some of which even came with some good enchantments. After killing in hell for so long, my experience level has reached 42. Levi enchanted all these experiences onto the book, constantly brushing up the attributes he wanted. If you don't have enough experience, go fishing. If you have enough experience, go and get enchantments. I fished for another week like this, and the boxes contain more and more miscellaneous items. There are several boxes filled with various enchantment books, bows, and fishing rods, some good and some bad. Thanks to luck of the C3, Levi was able to combine the broken equipment he caught on the anvil, and even created a fully enchanted bow with infinite attributes. Strength V, Infinity, Endurance 3, Impact 2, Fire Arrow. Although the basic attributes of this bow are not as good as the orc bow, the above enchantments make up for this point very well. Before you have enough experience to enchant the orc bow, you should use this one first. In addition, Levi also maxed out the attributes of the fishing rod and used the enchantment book he caught to complete the missing bait fishing 3 and experience repair for the fishing rod. Of course, these gains are incidental. The most important thing is that all the attributes of the diamond set are maxed out. On this day, Levi came to the forge and took out diamond armor and netherite. Achievement: Wrapped in Debris. A set of exquisite black armor emitting a faint glow appeared on his body. It looked hard, powerful, and heavy. And, like previous armor, it does not hinder flexibility of movement. The moment he put on this set of armor, Levi even had an illusion. Nothing in this world could push him anymore. For pieces of netherite armor provide a total of 4 points of knockback resistance. This is a full set of netherite armor with level 4 protection. Now, Levi began to have the confidence to challenge some things. But before that, there is one more thing. Levi took out the ancient elven sword and added all the necessary enchantments to it. Sharpness V, Endurance 3, Sweeping Blade 3, Looting 3, Experience Repair, Fire Edition 2. After thinking it over again and again, Levi did not add the knockback effect to the sword. If you chop the enemy down with one sword and he's not dead yet, you have to run over and stab him again. It's too troublesome and not conducive to fighting. Although he was fully equipped, Levi did not stop his development. He continued to mine, harvest vegetables, feed animals, refine medicine, and perform metallurgy, constantly accumulating resources. Unfortunately, no matter in Zhongzhou or in Hell, nothing like redstone has been found. Without redstone, automation is impossible and many technologies cannot be verified. It is unknown how long the days of accumulating resources lasted. Levi worked day and night, doing things that only he could do. The resources within the castle accumulated at an incredible speed. What? On a sunny morning, Levi was leaning against the city wall looking at the scenery, when he suddenly discovered that there was a person standing at the city gate. He was an old man wearing a gray robe, a pointed hat, and holding a wooden stick in his hand. At this moment, the old man, who looked exhausted, was standing on a lawn at the city gate, smoking Charles's pipe, staring silently at this huge castle that he seemed to have never seen before, with his brows twisted together. He looked as if he was doubting life. Either I've lost my memory, or this world is in chaos. The old man muttered to himself. Seeing a guest coming, Levi pulled the lever and opened the two iron doors next to him with a click, which scared the old man. Oh, hello, stranger. Although he was startled, the old man still greeted politely. Hello, what can I do for you? Levi asked, looking at the visitor carefully. Almost the first moment he saw the old man's face, Levi could be sure of his identity. That weather-beaten yet peaceful face, and the pair of black eyes shining with wisdom under the thick white eyebrows, left a deep impression on Levi the first time they met. There's no doubt about it. It's him, the gray wizard, Gandalf. Hello, young man. I am just a little confused. I have never seen such a vast castle in the wilderness. Although I look old, I think my memory is still pretty good. Gandalf took another puff of his cigarette. This helps him calm down. It's been less than a year since I last passed by here. At that time, there weren't so many things on this small plain. In fact, it should be said that there was really nothing. This is just so weird. Yes, you remember correctly. There was nothing here a year ago, Levi answered, and then continued. But I came here some time ago, and I thought the geographical location here was not bad, so I built a castle here. You mean you did everything here? Just you? And it took less than a year? Levi nodded, as if it was a matter of course. Gandalf's frown deepened. Someone is about to be kidnapped. This genuine wizard stared at Levi, as if trying to see something from him. I haven't heard that there are any new colleagues coming, but if I really want to talk about it in detail, the feeling of this person is a little familiar. My name is Gandalf, Gandalf the Grey, and that's what everyone who knows me calls me. The young human Lord Levi successfully attracted the attention of the old wizard. Although it felt a little surprising, Gandalf was a wizard after all. The title of wizard meant that he was a wizard who had lived for a long time. After traveling in Middle-earth for so many years, what has old Gandalf not seen? Isn't it just a being with magical powers? Although this one does feel quite unique. Levi, an adventurer. Adventurer? You look more like an architect, or maybe a lord. Thank you, Lord. I can't say, but I do work part-time as an architect. As he spoke, Levi's gaze gradually drifted upwards as he watched Gandalf. 30-30, old Gandalf's physique is also extraordinary. Although it was shown that Gandalf had 30 drops of blood, Levi had reason to doubt whether the blood bar was locked. Gandalf, it's not a good idea to have a visitor standing at the door. Why don't you come in with me? Oh, yes, of course, I'd love to. Gandalf nodded and followed Levi through the iron gate. A pair of eyes darted around, observing the structures inside the city wall. There are animals in pens, large horse farms and horse troughs, and mature crops. This is all normal. Now is autumn, and it is indeed time to harvest. I have to say that these crops are growing well, and you can see that there are a lot of fruits. Gandalf nodded and continued looking away. Is that a blacksmith shop? Why does the style of this forging table look familiar? I've seen it somewhere. Wait, what's that thing over there? Gandalf saw the enchanting table at a glance, as well as the unknown runes that were constantly converging towards the enchanting table from the surrounding bookshelves. This novel thing aroused his curiosity greatly. I can feel some kind of magic from it. Wow. Sensing Gandalf's approach, the book on the enchantment table automatically opened, turning the contents towards Gandalf, which really surprised the wizard a little. It is indeed what I use to add magic to my equipment. Speaking of which, your walking stick doesn't seem very strong. Do you want me to enchant it for you? Enchant? Do you mean adding magic power? If possible, I'd like to try it. For some reason, Gandalf felt an inexplicable sense of closeness and familiarity with the young man in front of him. It was as if he had returned to many, many years ago, before he came to Middle-earth, or even earlier. Unconsciously, Gandalf handed the cane to Levi, staring at him with his eyes, as if trying to see something. Apparently, Levi's title library was due for another check. Gandalf nodded, confirming that this young man was no enemy of the Free Peoples, but a friend of the elves and nomads, and seemed to be on friendly terms with the dwarves. Maybe I should go and ask around afterwards. After all, it's impossible for such a large building to appear out of nowhere without any news. Maybe I can hear some rumors or deeds about him in the nearby gathering places. Gandalf was preoccupied with his thoughts, but Levi was not acting without purpose either. Solid wood cane attack, +5. Wow, who would have thought that a mere wooden stick could have the same attack power as a stone sword? Whoever gets hit on the head by this would be stunned. In front of the enchantment table, Levi stared at the rather shiny cane in his hand and thought for a long time. What's wrong? Finally, Gandalf on the side couldn't help but ask. It's nothing, I just think this cane is unique. Gandalf nodded. It has indeed followed me for a long time. Levi was silent for a while. Is this what I care about? What I care about is why the new module unlock prompt has not appeared yet. Is this thing of yours a magic wand? Seeing that there was no movement after waiting for a long time, Levi had to give up temporarily. He sighed, took out the lapis lazuli, and placed the cane on the enchantment table. The cane floated up out of thin air, and the lapis lazuli melted in Levi's hand, turning into bursts of light that gathered into the cane. Durability 3, sharpness 4. It's okay. Levi took a sharpness level 4 enchantment book from the box next to him and upgraded the staff directly to sharpness level V. Now the attack power of this staff is 8 points, which is very strong. Levi handed it back to Gandalf. Gandalf felt something different as soon as he got hold of the cane, which began to emit a barely perceptible glow. He waved it twice with great force. I can feel that it has become harder and sharper. It can even be used as a good weapon. Gandalf was satisfied. Thank you, young Levi. This will make my trip much smoother. The wise old man thought for a long time, but he really didn't know what to call Levi. After all, he had too many titles. In the end, he chose to give up thinking and just call her by her real name. As long as it helps you. Although Levi's territory is large, if you really count it, there are not too many specific facilities. Many areas are still vacant and have not been specifically planned. It doesn't take too long to take a walk around. Along the way, every time he saw something magical, Gandalf could always find similar things in his memory. While telling Levi what he had seen and heard, he also commented on the things here. For a moment, it seemed as if Gandalf was taking Levi for a stroll. Medicine refining place. Making medicine? I know there's a guy in the forest who can make some medicines with strange special effects, but he usually uses those medicines to help nearby animals. Netherwort Farm. Oh, I seem to have seen this kind of sand. It's in the Death Swamp in the east. It's full of the skeletons of people from past eras. Resentment has gathered there, and there are many ghosts. If a passerby is not careful, he will be deceived by those phantoms and sink to the bottom of the lake and drown, becoming one of the wrong souls. No, don't worry, it won't happen. The soul sand here will not only not pull you down when you put it into the water, but will also make you fly. Levi answered in his heart, Excuse me, this is simply too evil. The raw materials you use to refine medicine are actually cultivated from the souls of the dead. Gandalf said, pointing at the hellwort. It's almost like some kind of necromancer. Gandalf shook his head repeatedly, but even though he said that, the wizard did not raise any objections or stop Levi. He just took a look and passed it by. After all, this thing only looks a little evil and does not pose any real harm. Gandalf is always like this, looking calm. But even so, when he followed Levi to the vicinity of the hell portal, he still opened his eyes wide, stopped there for a moment, and couldn't move. This